Randy, did you still want to give folks a little bit of time?
I think we can go ahead.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us at tonight's ANC 34G regularly scheduled meeting. We're still meeting virtually due to the pandemic, but we are ready to go. So thank you for coming tonight. Want to start out by introducing the commissioners, and we'll start with Randy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Randy Speck. I'm the commissioner for ANC 34G03. That's basically the area that's between Utah and 27th Street and Nebraska and Broad Branch. And glad to have everyone here.
Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter Gosselin. I'm the commissioner for District 6, which is basically the west side of Connecticut back to 41st, from the Western Avenue border with Maryland to Military Road, and a peninsula to the east of Connecticut between Kanawha and Legation. Welcome.
Connie.
Hello, I'm Connie Chang. I'm the commissioner for ANC 34G05, and that's bounded by the east side of Connecticut where Chase Bank is. On the east side, going up to the circle, cross Western, down Broad Branch Road, and then there's like a little inlet Legation that goes from Chevy Chase Parkway, Nevada, down to Jocelyn. Good evening, everyone.
And I'm Lisa Gore, representative of Single Member District 34G01, which is all of Hawthorne and portions of Barnaby Woods. And my single member district runs from Western Avenue, where it connects with Oregon, past Pinehurst Circle, Upton Street, back around, what's that, Utah, down Beach, and back up towards Oregon, up to Western. So thank you for coming tonight. I see we are joined by Commissioner Michael Zeldin. Michael, do you want to do introductions?
Of everybody or just myself?
Just yourself.
I'm Michael Zeldin. I represent 3G04, which is Lafayette over to Western, bounded by Utah, Broad Branch, and we end at sort of upland. And we only represent the Lafayette side of Broad Branch. Connie, I think, has the other side.
Thank you, Michael. And just to go over some meeting procedures, I just want to remind everyone, if you have a question, it's really easy for us. If you put your question in a Q&A, we'll get it that way. You can also put information in the chat and we'll try our best to respond to that timely. If we're in a session and you want to speak, please use the raise your hand function. That really helps us find people that want to speak very quickly and move them up. I ask that everybody use their best professionalism. Inappropriate behavior comments will not be tolerated. You'll be removed from the meeting promptly. We've had issues with that here in this ANC, unfortunately. And we really don't want to continue that or set an example. So if you do engage in that behavior, you will be removed from our meetings. And other than that, we'll get started with the business with commissioner announcements.
Don't you want to do an agenda first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda? Does any of commissioners have any changes, or can we adopt the agenda as is? Okay.
We're going to do a quick update on the ZDD, right? Do we need to add that, or can that fall under?
I think you can just do it under commissioner announcements, Peter.
Okay.
You want to do it like that? Okay.
Fine.
Okay. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. And we do have a quorum. We have a couple of commissioners not here tonight, but we do have a quorum with 5 commissioners.
I just heard from John and he says he's having computer problems, but we'll
Okay.
be back on. We'll be here shortly.
Okay.
And Lisa, I'm sorry, you know that I can't stay for much of the meeting. Amy and I are out in Colorado. It's our 41st wedding anniversary. So I said I would try not to work.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Yes.
mazel tov.
Congratulations to both of you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
John, I see you just joined us. You haven't missed that much. We've introduced ourselves and adopted the agenda. Do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yes, I'm John Higgins. I'm the commissioner for District 2, which is between Military and Aberfoyle, south north, and between Oregon and Utah, east west.
Thank you. So John, we were at commissioner announcements. I was just getting ready to give announcements for me. One of the things, and Peter, I'll send all this to you in writing, I wanted to announce is a college and career readiness program from OSSE, which is Office of the State Superintendent of Education. This is a program where high school students can take college classes free. We will put this information up on the website, but it's going to start at spring 2023, and it's their dual enrollment program. Applications are open to DC public school students and DC public charter school students. Applications close October 14th. I can tell you this is a great program. It does have GPA requirements, and students must be rising 10th, 11th, 12th graders, but it gives them the opportunity to take college level credits at a lot of our local universities here, including American, Bard College, Catholic University, Marymount, Trinity, even Northern Virginia Community College, UDC Flagship. So it's a really good program. My son participated in it, so I'm definitely gonna make sure the community is aware of that. And some of that, that's college credit that can go to their future. Two other things that are coming up that members of the ANC or community might be interested in: conflict resolution training, and that's going to be on Thursday, September 29th at 7 p.m. and it's a link, Zoom. So we'll also post this up, but this is a good piece of information that we got from Office of ANC that might help us in an ANC or members of the community in terms of conflict resolution, as well as implicit bias training. I've done a lot of implicit bias training through my job in law enforcement. It's always excellent to take. October 20th at 2 p.m. is that training, and it's also virtual. So that'll be a really good opportunity for members of the community to participate in that. And then just to remind folks, I know there's been a lot of buzz around Chevy Chase Day, which is September 17th, 1 to 4, hosted by the Chevy Chase Citizens Association. I try not to miss that. It's a great event. There's a lot of good stuff going on, great schedule of events. So please try to come out and support Chevy Chase Day. Those are all my announcements. Any other commissioners have announcements? Michael, then Randy.
My announcement is today I spoke with Mr. James Woodworth. He's at DOEE. I called him because of these bioretention facilities that are all over our neighborhood that are completely overgrown. He and I are going to walk around on the 21st, but he advises that the city has signed a contract with a vendor who, starting in October, will be maintaining these across the city. There are about 100 of them. But so if people have a bioretention facility that's overgrown in their area, if they would just send me a note advising me of its location, I will try to visit it with Mr. Woodworth on the 21st, or if I can't visit with him all of these things, I'll at least give him a list of the ones that we think are overgrown. The other thing is that I brought to his attention a program in San Francisco, which is called Rain Guardians, and it's a adopt a rain garden program where citizens can adopt a rain garden and maintain it, like, I guess Adopt a Highway is. And he said he would look into that and get back to us on whether that will be a permissible thing for citizens to do and what the parameters of what they can do will be. So that's my announcement.
Michael, can you add, and I'm happy if I'm around to walk through with you, all of Oregon Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you would just send me an email, Lisa, with that. And if you want to walk around, I think we're meeting on the one at Stevenson and 33rd, somewhere between 9:30 and 10. I can send you the exact time once I get it. And any commissioner is welcome to join.
Thank you.
That's the time for the Stevenson one, Michael?
It's going to be between 9:30 and 10.
On what day?
Just confirm that on the 9:30 and 10 on the 21st of September.
Okay, thank you.
Kiddo.
Peter, you're on, if you had a question for Michael, you're on mute.
Yeah, Michael, could you also, I'll try to attend, but I attended a briefing about the expansion of the bioretention system from Broad Branch through my area and Connie's, I think over to Spring Valley. I'd be interested in hearing from people who about their experience with it, because besides being overgrown, some of the people on this briefing talked about the fact that every time it rains, it floods. And that's sort of what these things are designed to keep from happening. And so I want to be sure this round we make sure they're designed correctly and not incorrectly. So,
Yeah, I don't think, Peter, that the flooding is a design issue as much as it is a maintenance issue, that if the ground cover, just like the permeable streets that we have, like Oliver or whatever it is that has that, if they're not maintained, the water pools instead of, and doesn't drain. So anyway.
okay, I just need to learn. I need to learn about it. I mean, I need to learn. I mean, if they're coming to my area, I need to learn what the hell
Well, this guy, James Woodworth, is apparently the point of contact. You guys are welcome to come. If not, I'm happy to give you his email contact so that you can follow up with him directly and say, hey, can we talk about this in my ANC? That's it for me.
Randy, then John, or John, you had a
Here's
question.
a question for.
Yeah,
Okay, and then Connie.
I haven't checked the Norwood ones. I've just gotten back from vacation. The new ones on Oregon Avenue, they seem to be working pretty well. The one at 29th and Tennyson is frequently stopped up. So that's one we can check on. Michael, this is your inspection tour is the 21st?
21st between 9:30 and 10.
Okay.
And when he gives me a more time specific between that half hour, I will send it around. And again, if you can't make it, that's fine. But if there are ones that you want me to bring to his attention, just send me it and I'll give him a spreadsheet.
Yeah, we've got one at 29th. We've got an older one at Tennyson and Oregon, and then we have the new ones on Oregon. So I will definitely make a note of that and try to make that tour.
Okie dokie.
Okay, you want me to go next, Lisa?
Yeah.
All right. I have a couple of announcements. The first is with regard to lead service line removal, which I've been working on an interagency task force for the last year. The task force has now completed its work on a report that will go to the council with recommendations for ways to improve DC Water's plan to replace all of the lead service lines in the district by 2030. The latest version of the report, unfortunately, is not yet public, but the earlier drafts are available on the DOEE's website. The two public representatives, I'm one of those, appointed by the council to the task force, have made a number of additional proposals, including specific language for legislation that would require replacement by 2030. It's a mandate essentially to require the replacement. And we'll be transmitting those additional proposals with recommendations to the council as well. The council Committee on Transportation and the Environment will hold a roundtable hearing on this report on September 27th at 2 p.m. And the notice of the hearing is available on the DC Council's website. And anyone wishing to testify should contact Mika Benjamin, who's the staff assistant for the Committee on Transportation and the Environment. And you can contact her by email at ebenjamin@dccouncil.us, and she'll put you on the list for testifying. The other issue, and I don't want to steal thunder from.
Randy, no,
Yeah.
it's .gov, so it's no
Oh,
longer,
okay.
just, because we're video recording this. I'm sorry.
Okay, everything is now .gov.
Yes, that's what D. Smith is saying in the
I
Q&A.
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it changed early September, I think.
Okay. And I don't want to steal Connie's thunder on this, but are you going to say anything about Sidewalk Palooza, Connie?
You can steal my thunder, Randy.
I know you really pushed it very well and very effectively last year. But the second annual Sidewalk Palooza is going to be from October 7th to the 17th. And it will have walk-arounds by people in the neighborhood all over the city to identify sidewalk repairs, sidewalk gaps, pedestrian crossing protection, safe passage to school, and any other issues that they identify. You can see what happened at last year's event at the sidewalkpalooza.org, and that's going to be updated with this year's events as well. So keep that in mind for early October. The final thing I had to announce is I have received a request from residents who have called to our attention the theft of some yard signs that advocate views relating to proposed bike lanes on Connecticut Avenue. And regardless of individual positions on these issues, we should all respect everyone's right to state their views and to advocate for them. We urge everyone to participate in productive dialogue and to allow others to express their opinions freely. This should be the hallmark of our community. Okay, that's it.
Peter?
Yeah, first of all, let me just second what Randy said there. It really doesn't speak well of us if we can't have free speech, and lawn signs are free speech, right? Absent some awful, example of them, and these are not awful examples. I just wanted to update people on the creation of the Zoning Design and Development Standing Committee. I said we'd be ready by this meeting, and I'm not, but things are moving quickly, and Connie and I will, this is my fault that we're not ready. We don't have a slate of candidates quite filled out yet, but we will have it shortly, and we understand that the issues here, and there are a lot of them, are moving very quickly. Indeed, Connie and I will be meeting with the Office of Planning to get an update on what they're doing about designing a special zoning district per the small area plan tomorrow. And so I take responsibility for this. We will move it quickly and get a slate before the commission and get a founding document and the various rules and procedures in place quickly. Thank you.
Connie?
Okay, I wanted to camp on to what Lisa said earlier about Chevy Chase Day. So I was able to get Department of Health to come back again to do a pop-up vaccination clinic inside the center, and they will administer the COVID vaccine for 12-year-olds and up. And they will also provide flu shots, but only for the first 25 folks. Everything is free. You don't need to sign up. You just need to show up. And I certainly did that last year with my then 12-year-old. And that was really nice because it's a nice space and it's inside. So I encourage everyone to go. The other thing is, it seems to be the case that Chevy Chase Community Center has changed their hours. Starting, I don't know starting what exact date, but I believe this fall from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. I don't think that's going to change because they have staffing issues. The fencing team, the fencing master is not happy because a lot of the people who take fencing come after work. It's not a lot of time. I tried to ask, what the matter was, but it really is a staffing issue across the district. and they will revisit it in the spring. I will again try to see if there's any change. They're trying to hire 90+ people to staff these recreation centers. And they're doing the best that they can, I suppose. So I will report back whatever I hear, but I wanted everyone to know. The other thing is Blue 44. If you're interested in knowing what's going on with the canopy, it costs twice as much as they estimated. It took more time to expedite and to do all the permitting, but they are now constructing the canopy. It's in the hands of their vendor, and they really hope, fingers crossed, that it will happen in November. And Blue 44 got lucky. They got 2 grants, and hopefully those grants will pay for some of the costs, because the cost was double, and they feel very lucky, and we'll see how things go, and we'll report back once we know, and we'll hopefully be able to see it. The other thing I want to say is that there was this accident on Connecticut Avenue, I guess a week ago, and there was some concern. It was all over, I guess, social media about what happened. So 2 things happened. I'm not going to get the date precisely right. Maybe Peter can help me on the exact date from last week. But early in the morning, there was a driver that fell asleep. And that driver drove into 5 parked cars on Connecticut and Legation. And that particular driver's car overturned, and that car was on its roof. And the 5 cars that were parked sustained severe damages, but no one was hurt. Then later on that day, there was an incident where many police cars were on Connecticut Avenue. And I so happened to be on the avenue, and I asked an officer what had happened that day before. So it was the next day. And they said that there was some report of a person who was, who I guess alarmed the Exxon station with certain behavior, and perhaps was armed at one point. This person was reported to the police and then came back to put gas in their car. The car, the picture was taken of the driver, of the license plate, and then that car was registered to a person who lives in an apartment building on Connecticut. And they did see this person, and the police tried to apprehend him and was unsuccessful, but they know who he is. He doesn't seem to be a danger to the public itself, but and I don't know the resolution of that, but there's just been so many things swirling around, and there's been a lot of activity here. So you'll see police cars driving around. You'll also see vehicles parked, and so they are aware that there's been some activity, and they're there. And I just wanted to mention that.
Tuesday. It was last Tuesday.
Thank you. The days were just, I'm sorry, coming back for vacation. I can't even get the days straight. Thank you, Peter.
All right, any more commissioner announcements? Okay, community announcements. I know there's a couple of folks here from council member offices. If you can please raise your hand.
Lisa, do you think we can get Anna Claire first? Because she has to leave at 7:30. She's Chevy Chase Main Street. So
Sure.
she has 6 minutes. She can get a quick update in if it's possible. I believe she's in the audience. Yep, she's there.
Randy, did you make me co-host?
I made Connie co-host. I can
Oh,
make you too. I can make you too.
Oh, you're asking for trouble.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for squeezing me in.
Yes.
Hi, so I am Anna Claire Walker. I am the new manager of the Chevy Chase Main Street with District Bridges. I just began 2 weeks ago. So I'm doing a lot of onboarding, a lot of training, a lot of spending time on the corridor, getting to know the amazing business owners and community members, and getting to learn all about what makes Chevy Chase so special and so great. I've really enjoyed it so far. My very first week, we had our first successful Chevy Chase First Fridays event. The first one was supposed to be in August, but we got rained out. It only lasted about an hour, but we had a very successful September redo. And we will be having that through the new year. We'll skip December and January, but we'll have it November, and then hopefully starting back up October, November, then starting back up in February as well. So last time we had some live music, we had a food truck with ice cream, We had some lawn games, balloons, and a story time. We have on the schedule a really great, beautiful puppet show, a magic show, several different musicians lined up, and some great food trucks as well. So hopefully there'll be a little something different each time to just draw families in, draw community members in off that main street and get people kind of talking about the main street and really bolster up a larger volunteer base, more visibility in the community so that people know we're here. We're helping the community. We're trying to help small businesses. As we end out this fiscal year, we'll be looking into the new year about how different small business grants can be applied to different members of the community and really help them with their visibility in the community as well and help those small businesses. So I'm really excited to get started. I may not have all the answers all the time as I am very new, but if I don't know something, I'm very eager to find that answer for you and help you out. So if you're on the call and you're interested in supporting your community, please look at the District Bridges website. We're always looking for volunteers. We're hoping to get a beautification committee together to help maintain some of the tree boxes around town. We have a really cool call box artist submission project that we're working on right now, trying to restore some of those historical call boxes with cool art. And then we'll also be having a big festival in November and December with holiday lights. And that's something that District Bridges started that's actually DC wide now, and almost all, I think all of the main streets participate now, which is really great. So there's like a scavenger hunt and you get to vote if you're a member of the community on your favorite, holiday light display and things like that. And really excited to work on that as well. So those are a few updates on the front of my mind, but happy to answer any questions from anyone as well.
Connie.
I want to say that I did attend that first Friday, and I really loved the standing kind of flags, to kind of usher people down toward the PNC parking lot. That was great. The storyteller was wonderful. Really, I was pretty impressed. Captivated all the little kids and the parents, even the dogs that were lying there. It was really wonderful. And the music was really first rate. I didn't stay for the dancing, but I really could see that everyone that was there really loved it. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm really looking forward to more and to sort of communicate it out and advertise it so that we can do more. And I know that there's been some talk about perhaps a health forum, like something where we can do that. So we'd love to help you do, work with you on that if it's this fall or early spring, whenever. The only thing I'd like to say is that I'm really hoping that the map that I was so ecstatically happy about for Chevy Chase gets corrected. And I know you printed out a lot of copies, but there were errors there. So I'm just bringing this up publicly so that people know. And I'm happy to work with you on that. And we'll have our own kind of conversation. But that was the only disappointment for that night. But otherwise, honestly, it was really wonderful. So thank you so much for putting all that together. It was really nice to see everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great to meet you there, Connie. And I believe I met you as well, Peter. It was really great to meet people. And there were a few errors on that map. So there's a few businesses where the graphic designer just misplaced them in the line of blocks on one side. And the QR code, there was also an error happening with that, but they have been able to fix that. The good news is that there's been some amazing businesses that have opened up recently, even more recently than when we planned these maps. So regardless, we were going to have to do another print because there's some amazing small businesses that we really want to highlight on that map. So what we're looking at is closing out this fiscal year and looking at a way to find more sponsorships for a reprint or fitting it into the budget for the next year to really include those new businesses and correct those errors there. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Anna Claire? Okay.
Right on time. Thank you. Thank you, Anne Claire.
Who wants to go next? So we have James Lewis. You want to go, James?
Sure. I'm happy to be back at ANC 34G. It's been a while. I hope everyone had a really pleasant summer and Labor Day. So we're about to restart our legislative session on Friday. So we had a very good, intensive in the community summer, visited a lot of senior centers, visited the recreation centers with some of you, visited a lot of our ward schools. So it was very interesting, and it was great to work with different agencies and neighbors in the ward over the summer. And so now we're getting ready to get back into action with legislation. So a few things to highlight very quickly. The council member is really excited to announce that we're having the first annual Award for Senior Jubilee on October 19th. I'm going to send the RSVP and how to sign up for that event. It's on a Wednesday, midday. And we're going to have agencies for seniors, resources, a dance floor, food. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be at Fort Stevens Recreation Center. So more information will be coming down the pipeline for that. On the legislative side, the council member introduced the Green New Deal for social housing back in April to address the need for affordable housing, green affordable housing in the district. And we're super excited to announce that bill has been scheduled for a hearing on November 17th. So we really wish that ANC commissioners and folks in Chevy Chase and in 34G will sign up to speak at the hearing. And to submit their thoughts. So I'm going to share the information for that in the chat at the end. We're also announcing new legislation to address the rise in litter can removals by DPW. That litter cans have just been disappearing across the ward, and it's to most of the time dumping, and DPW just removes litter cans. Our legislation that we're proposing will have DPW have to notify the ANC before they remove the litter can. So we also want some support on that legislation coming through. The council member previously introduced the Clean Collection Act that does something similar related to solid waste management at apartment complexes. So we're just kind of increasing our, sewer and trash and getting things done well in the city. Our service is done well. So I'll share all that information soon. And then, again, this Friday, our legislative session begins. I'll share our newsletter, which is continuing as always. Please sign up. I'll send that link for that. And also we're continuing our care days starting back at Riggs Park on this Thursday, but I don't think there's any going on in 34G coming up, but I'll let everyone know.
James, let me remind you and Amir and Anthony and Anna Claire that you need to send me text of.
Will do. I'll do that right now.
Will not appear in the minutes. Thanks.
And James, just a couple questions.
Sure.
How are you guys promoting the October 14th event? Because a lot of our seniors are not on social media. And I would love to see, our seniors on this side of the park participate in that. How are you guys promoting that?
So two things. So it's October 19th. And we're going to, I'm working on a senior physical newsletter. We're finally getting that done. We finally have the bandwidth to make a physical newsletter.
Great.
We're going to be dropping it off at every senior center and all the major senior residents and homes in the ward. We're also going to drop it off at seniors that we already have in our system that we know that we can knock on their doors, leave the leaflet
That's
for them.
outstanding.
And we're also going to just be canvassing buildings in general, talking to folks, talking to neighbors, and we'll be sharing it with all the ANCs, the information. But the senior newsletter hopefully will be printed and ready to be dropped off next week. And then we're also going to have a direct mailer that we're sending for the event.
Okay. And
So-
on the litter cans, I just want to, definitely I support and encourage everyone to submit testimony on the social housing, Green New Deal. I'm a big proponent of that, but also on the litter cans as well. We actually need more litter cans in the city, not less. And I'm really surprised that they're removing litter cans. I mean, I don't know why that's happening because
We didn't either.
yeah, Wisconsin Avenue, Connecticut. I mean, there's plenty of times where I've done 311 for litter cans. And in areas that have a lot of foot traffic and restaurant traffic, you really need more than one can.
So what was happening, the constituent service team in our office kept getting calls about missing cans. We thought they were being stolen. Like we thought something was going on at first. And then we contacted DPW. They kind of were like, we don't know what's going on. And then we continued to contact them. And then we got a list of all the missing cans. And then they're like, oh yeah, we're removing these without asking anyone because people are dumping here. And it's like 20, 30 cans missing just in like Brightwood and in Manor Park. It became a huge problem. And so this was somewhere where a constituent concern turned into legislation.
Right.
So we're super excited to do that. That's one of the things that our office really, enjoys doing.
Yep. Okay. Connie?
About the litter cans, I tried to get DPW to go to the community center to clean out the bottoms of those cans because we have, unfortunately, a rat problem.
Mhm.
And the cans are designed pretty poorly, I'd say, for a city.
Yeah.
So I don't know about this legislation, but if there's a way to get better cans, because when they dump it, they take out the inner, I think the inside.
The liner.
Right, but there's a lot of stuff that's just on that bottom, and it's bad. And
Yeah, definitely. I can look into that more and get you an answer, because that's definitely a concern. And also that's somewhere where we can also bring in the Department of Health, DC Health, to get involved related to rodents.
please, especially around schools, nursery, community center, there's a daycare there,
Yeah.
and children should not. I mean, I saw a dead rat, unfortunately, because they're trying to do pest control, but all of that is no good. And I think we need to do better,
Definitely.
especially along Connecticut Avenue. I saw a live one like running right into the trash can at 9:30 when I got out of Avalon Theater, and that was not pleasant. And I would like for us to deal with it better in some way.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Peter? I'm sorry, Michael.
So, James, the one thing, I guess a litter can is a garbage can. Is that what that is? Those
The
things,
public
round
litter
things
can
on
be-
the street.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the scope of your legislation is, but if I were writing legislation and asking for more litter cans or notice when a litter can would be removed on the more side of it, I think what also needs to be added is more of the blue recycling cans.
Yeah, that's also in our
Because what
pipeline, actually.
fills up the brown cans more than anything else is stuff that's recyclable. And Janice and I have been working for a while now to try to get more of the blue cans at Lafayette in the park, because those things fill up and then there's trash all over the ground, and then it creates the problem that Connie is worried about, which is vermin. And so I would be careful to make sure that I included the blue cans as much as I can in any legislation that you're working on.
Definitely. We want a total overhaul of how our trash is distributed and deposited, because we want recycling. We want separated recycling included at a lot of these major sites, especially near rec centers, schools, bus stops, etc. So we're on board. That might be a separate piece of legislation.
So can I just add one more thing, Connie, before I let him go? So for a while, we lived in Seattle, and we're now in Boulder. And these cities have mandatory composting. And they have a third can for compost, which again, to Connie's point of the dangers that litter present, if you wanted to do an environmental and community service, you'd include in legislation, this legislation or other legislation, mandatory composting and the provision of cans for it. We right now pay compost crew to take away our compost, and but it's expensive, and you can't expect people to pay for what they think should be a city service.
Exactly.
But that's something, James, that if you guys could turn your attention to, that would be.
Our thoughts are on trash right now, and so this is, sorry, my cat's jumping on my lap. But it's on our minds right now. We were discussing this, me and Will Perkins, our assistant chief of staff and ledge guy. We just went to Europe and we saw all these beautiful trash cans with recycling and compost all next to each other and separate for glass and plastic and paper. And we're like, why can't we have that in the capital of the United States? It makes no sense. So
That's my 2 cents.
we're on the same board.
And just one more point there, if I may. I'd like to make sure that there's instructions, because I do about recycling, which I totally agree with, and composting, that, the best of these restaurants, when you're like finished with your meal, you go and you're like, what goes where? They have visual signage. And I just feel like it would be great if the district could lead on that to help people, because people want to do the right thing and people don't know how to do the right thing. They don't know what goes where. So
Definitely.
it'd be really nice to have that.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Gore brought up something that's important. Our emails just changed from .us, which I do not know why we had .us to .gov now. So both work. If you do .us, it still sends to us, but we're now .gov finally, which is, it's a shame because I like saying .us and like, but that's it. That's all I got. If anyone else has any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them or email you back, and I will send Commissioner Gosselin, I'll send the notes that I have.
Thank you so much, James.
Of course.
Okay, Amir or Anthony, who wants to go next?
Good evening. So I appreciate you all giving us this opportunity. I'm Anthony Skirbo. I'm the new legislative director for Councilmember Bonds at the Committee on Housing and Executive Administration. I'm also an 06 resident. So I live here in the ANC, and I'm real excited. So thank you all for everything that you do. Councilmember Bonds is so grateful to the ANCs and all the hard work that you all do. Our big commitments right now are seniors, per the point that Lisa made, public safety, driver and traffic safety, to the incidents that Connie was mentioning. We're very committed to driving on those beyond our normal committee assignment responsibilities. We have a number of things coming up, including a number of bills involving condos. We have the period equity bill, district waterways. We'll be the committee actually hosting the Green New Deal hearing at our committee in November. So we're very excited, but Councilmember Bonds has definitely not lost the thread of the immediate things that are affecting district residents. And we're very much committed to being available to the commissioners, but also to the constituents.
Well, Anthony, you're going to be my new best friend.
Okay. It's a small group of friends, so I'm glad to have another one.
I don't know, you might have second thoughts. It's funny because I got a call from someone that I met during the election today on housing matters. So I say that, and I say that very seriously.
Okay.
We really would like Councilmember Bond's support in this Green New Deal for housing, social housing bill that's coming up. So I'm glad that she's doing a hearing, but we definitely want to keep pressing her in getting that legislation through.
Yeah, and obviously I can't speak for the council member, but housing is front and center of
It's
everything.
number one.
Is number one. and so we're very excited. And like I said, we're very honored to try to support the ANCs as much as is humanly possible, because we're very grateful for the work that you all do.
Thank you. Connie?
Yeah, I was going to say that housing is very important, but also any kind of services too that are needed. So I just wanted to add that bit there, that it goes hand in hand. And I think the community needs to do a better job of welcoming new residents into our own communities. And so that's on us. But I'm hoping that Councilmember Bonds will help us to work on wraparound services and other services that are necessary all around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony, do you have your email in the?
Sorry, I sent it to Peter. Let me send it to everybody.
Can you put that in the chat for us? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Amir?
Yes, good evening, 34G. It's great to be back. I hope everyone had a good summer recess. My name is Amir Gur-Raventab with the Ward 3 representative for the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. And I just have a few updates as far as events and news updates that have gone on in the past few weeks. I want to start with an upcoming event, and that's this Thursday. It's the annual Maternal and Infant Health Summit that's been hosted by the mayor since 2018. And this is a conference that focuses on maternal health, young infants' health, and specifically seeks to tackle certain issues such as the disparity in women's health, Black women's health, such as infant mortality and childbirth complications. And so there's going to be a lot of healthcare professionals and policymakers from around the country. The mayor herself will be there. The event is going to be at the Mount Vernon Convention Center between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. And the public can come in and out as they please. It's going to be no tickets really required. Just show up. And there's going to be several panels that the mayor will be at. Moving on, it might have been mentioned before in this, but we now have COVID vaccines approved for the Omicron strain. It's the bivalent COVID vaccine, which is called bivalent because it has the vaccination features, I guess, for the original COVID, like the old vaccines do, and also has antibodies against the Omicron variant. And so this is intended for those who have concerns about getting the Omicron variant, who want to be as prepared and protected as possible against the vaccine. And they are giving those out right now at the COVID centers. So there are 8 COVID centers in DC for all 8 wards, and the one for Ward 3 which is closest to this ANC, is over at the Chevy Chase Pavilion on Wisconsin Avenue. It's open 6 days a week, and I'm going to send a link to the chat about all the locations and their times. And you can also get your flu vaccine at the same time as well. And it's just walk up, no appointment necessary, just show up, be a DC resident, that's it. And moving on from that, the mayor also announced an expansion to the HPAP program, which is the Home Purchase Assistance Program run through DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development. So starting October 1st, which is when the new budget comes into effect, they're going to increase the amount of money that is given as down payment assistance to a significant degree for incomes all across the board. And the income requirements are pretty permissible. If you're a single person making $100,000, there is funds for you. So I do highly recommend anyone who is trying to purchase their first house or who has not owned a house in the last 3 years. That's the criteria for being a first-time home buyer, is you haven't had any stake in a home in the past 3 years. To take part in this program, I'm going to send a link to that as well. There are several community-based organizations where you can sign up and do the intro course, which gets you started with that program. And finally, there's the New Kids Ride Free Smart Trip cards. Since we are now in a school year again, just want to make sure that everyone knows that students of any DC school of any type, as long as the students live in DC, are eligible for free Smart Trip cards for free trips. If your child hasn't gotten one yet, then please contact your school administrator to make sure that they get that. And I did say one last, but I actually have one more announcement, a pretty major one. The mayor earlier this week did announce the Office of Migrant Services, which is going to be part of the Department of Human Services, DHS. And the district is allocating an initial $10 million to stand up the new office and support organizations within the field. And we will seek reimbursement from the federal government. And so this is in response to the heavy influx of migrants from the border that are being shipped on buses from border states here to the District of Columbia. The majority of these migrants are moving on to cities beyond DC. They're only passing through DC as sort of a transit hub because they're getting free rides from the border by the governors of those states, and they're making their way elsewhere. However, this has proven to be a humanitarian crisis because we were not equipped to handle so many migrants so suddenly. And up until this point, we were being helped by SAMU, which is a contractor, along with Catholic Charities, but they've exceeded their capacity. So the mayor has announced both the Office of Migrant Services and a temporary public emergency that allows her administration to make more emergency changes to the budget in order to be more flexible during this emergency. So that's a big development that we've just had. And any questions in regards to that, I can direct to DHS. But that's as far as I wanted to announce. I know there might be some questions, so I'm happy to hear them.
Any questions, guys, for Amir?
No, the only thing I want to announce though with Amir is that we will be walking my district about trees that have been removed that need to be planted. And I can't seem to get that going. So I think that's really important. So Amir and I will do some walkthrough sometime this week to identify the areas that need to be replanted.
And Connie, you're aware that Dan Just who was our area urban forestry person, has moved to Iowa, and we have a new urban forestry person with whom we are to liaison around planting, because planting season starts in October. And so what you need to do is you need to put into 311 the specific location of where a tree should be planted. And then I usually follow up with a call to the urban forestry to Dan, but now I'll send you his successor to get the trees planted. And of all the DDOT subdivisions, urban forestry has been really pretty responsive in my experience with them.
Yeah, I put in some requests months and months and months ago, and I haven't heard. This is why I'm asking Amir for help so that we can just do an inventory. Because every time I walk, I see another one, another possibility. And
Right, but in the summer, they're not planting. So we're
Oh, I
not
know
in the
that.
planting season.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. So if I can get that list, then at least it's going to be either this fall or most likely next
So you
fall.
Yeah,
said
but-
planting season
but-
starts October? Is that when
Yeah.
it starts?
Yeah, and but you need to get it into 311.
Yeah.
The locate, tree by tree location.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, we
We'll
can do that.
Yeah, we'll work together. Thank you, Amir. I just wanted to
Thank
say
you.
that out loud in case any other commissioners were interested.
Yeah, and I
following-
think a good day tentatively might be Friday, if that's
Okay.
possible. That's one of my days that I can do a sweep.
Okay, I'll talk to you offline. Thank you. Amir.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no more announcements, guys, we definitely need to move on with the agenda.
And can I just say that somebody is complaining that the chat is the chat functioning?
Yes,
Hosts and panelists, and I see it can go to each of us, but I don't see that it can go to everyone.
you have to select everyone.
Have to select it.
Well, I don't see an option to select. If you're just host and panelists, Randy, Connie, John Higgins, Michael Zeldin, and Lisa.
Just click,
No,
Click
no,
on-
yeah, click the
click
one
on it.
below that. It says everyone.
Click the
Yeah.
blue button, the blue icon, it has a drop down.
Where you see the names at the top of the names, in between the names and hosts and panelists, you'll see everyone, and then you choose that.
I get the idea. I get the theory. I just don't see everyone.
I'm gonna send you a screenshot.
Okay, but if I'm having the problem, then who knows?
If you have this,
Yeah, Lisa's been sending it to everyone, not an issue.
if you have this case, look at the picture I just sent you. If you have that
Okay.
screenshot. Okay, can we move on though, Peter, while you're working that out?
Yeah. No, the next one's mine in any case.
You ready?
Yeah.
Well, this is the discussion and possible vote on liquor license renewal for the Avenue.
Right.
5540 Connecticut.
Right. So this is in my single member district. If you remember, we brought this up on July 25th, and I was at fault in telling the owner, Tim Walsh, who is here tonight, that he didn't have to be here because this is a routine liquor license renewal, represents no change in hours or other aspects of operation. And he says there have been no complaints about the Avenue's performance. There was a concern among some of the commissioners that we hadn't gotten this up on our agenda and therefore allowed the public to understand that this was coming up in a timely fashion. So we've now done so. And I move that we, unless commissioners have questions for Mr. Walsh, we move to support this routine renewal. Do I have a second?
A second.
Yeah. Can we just go to vote? Trying to get us back on track on terms of time.
Any discussion? Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Raise your hand.
Good.
Okay, unanimous.
Thanks for coming, Tim.
Of course, thank you guys for all the hard work and getting this.
And the long work. We've extended it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do appreciate all the effort. So thank you all very much and hope to see you in the Avenue soon.
Oh, yeah, you will. Take care. Okay, next on the agenda, this is Commissioner Zeldin's BZA application. And Michael, who, I know we, can you give us who all we need to promote? I know Cassie.
I can do it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Cassie. Oh, did Michael freeze on us? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yep.
I think it's just Kathy. I don't see Adam.
Okay.
His partner.
Now we have two Michaels.
There we
Okay,
go.
we're both together. Okay, we're good.
And I
You're
just,
muted, Michael.
yeah,
Michael, you're muted.
on the agenda, we have one correction Cassie just emailed to me. It should read for a special exemption to construct a second story rear addition only. So ignore the part that says inside additions to an existing detached two-story basement principal dwelling. Just want to make that correction. Okay, Michael, you can go on and take it.
You're muted.
Okay, sorry. I had to go onto my phone because my computer apparently just died. Not apparently, my computer just died. This is a request, as Lisa just said, to allow for this addition to the permanent property. Randy and I visited the property the other week and looked at the plans and walked across the neighboring properties, looked across to the neighboring properties. And in our view, the proposal will present no sort of impediment to any of the neighbors, that it seems consistent with the size and nature of their lot and their neighboring houses. And so our view was, Randy can speak for himself, of course, was that we should support this effort by them to their home so that their 4 children have a place to grow up into. Randy, do you want to add?
No, I think we can hear from Adam and Cassie.
Hi, how are you all? We actually have some pictures. Can we show a slideshow?
You can share your screen. I made you co-hosts.
Great. Okay, we are Adam and Cassie Pergament. We moved into our home at 6130 32nd Street in 2014. We both grew up in the neighborhood, and we now have 4 kids, and we would like to do an addition on the back of our house, which requires a special exception. Our builder is also on the line, so he can answer any questions. Our home, this is on the left side, you'll see the existing first floor plan, and on the right side, you'll see the proposed first floor plan. And essentially what we are hoping to do is open up our kitchen and family room so that our family of 6 can enjoy and eat together. And we have added these orange boxes that you can see on the existing and the proposed first floor plan that show the change in the footprint to the house that we would be making. That is an additional 4.6 feet into it's the side yard, but they call it the rear yard. This is also a visual picture, so you can see essentially this is where we would add the additional 4.6 feet is almost exactly what this little shed is, of where it would come out on the side of the house. And on the second floor, what we would do is add a primary bedroom on the top and the closet and bathroom, as you can see with these orange boxes, again, that we just added to the drawings. To be illustrative, they show why we need that extra 4.6 feet is so that we can have a closet and a bathroom added upstairs. Yeah, I'll let Adam share a little bit more.
So then the question is, why are we here? So, we're we're in an R1B zone, which requires a 25-foot setback. We have an unusual property. It was at some point way back when, prior to 1958, it was subdivided. So we have a non-conforming rear yard that was in existence in 1958. So what that means is that we're permitted to build on top of that back family room, but we're just not allowed to change the footprint of that family room. And again, this is just another overview. Just all of these yellow boxes that we're putting in are purely for purposes of this presentation. They're the only thing that's sort of not already part of the record that we've submitted, but it's for illustrative purposes only. And I'll get to the special exception requirements, but we've tried to contact as many neighbors as we possibly can. We overwhelmingly received positive support for the application from neighbors. This image shows several members of our neighborhood on 32nd Street and also Stevenson Place that have signed. I just want to point out two specifics here that this includes the two neighbors that are directly on either side of us, 6136 32nd Street, as well as 6124 32nd Street. We have not heard from, and we've again conducted a lot of outreach. We've not heard from anyone who's expressed any concern with the project. So the requirements for a special exception require us to show that this house is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning regulations. We believe it is. This is an R1B zone and single family home will still be used that way. The pictures on the screen that you're seeing are multiple elevations that are architecture. And what we think they show, and happy to have more detail on this as necessary, but that this house is in harmony with the character of our existing home and also in character with all the houses around in the neighborhood. So in order to get BZA approval, we have to show that there's no substantial adverse effect on the use or enjoyment of any adjacent property, and that light and air is not unduly affected, and that privacy and use are not unduly compromised. On this slide, we have a shot from Google Images, which just shows the house and the neighboring houses. As I mentioned, the house at 6136 32nd Street and 6124 32nd Street have signed, among others, have signed this petition. I put in this, we've got a quote that you can see as well, which is that these two neighbors, along with all the other neighbors who signed the petition, say that the proposed addition will not interfere in any way with the air, light, or privacy of our homes. And so we think we solidly meet the requirements of the regulations. And so just to very briefly summarize and conclude, this is a minor adjustment to the back of our house. It would change the footprint by 4.6 feet. It won't actually change the rear setback at all. We do need a special exception, based on the nature of our lot and when the house was built. We have a lot of neighborhood support, and we think that part of the reason for that is, in our view, is that this project, this addition, will be in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning regulations, and will not have any adverse effects on our neighborhood properties. We appreciate the time that you're giving us this evening, and we're happy to take any questions that you may have about this proposed special exception.
Commissioners, any questions?
Nope.
Can we put the
Screen down.
return the screen back so we could see? Okay, no questions from the commission. Any questions from the community? Raise your hand if so. Okay. Michael, do you want to move it?
I move that we approve this request.
A second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, I gotta go.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Have fun. Great anniversary.
Thank you, guys. See
Enjoy.
you soon. Bye.
And just real quick before we go to the next topic, Peter sent a screenshot of his chat. He's not able to see everyone. Do we know what's going on? And there's a couple
fixed it.
people in the
I fixed
audience saying the same thing.
I just fixed it. I just noticed that chat, you couldn't chat with everyone and now it should be fixed. So people
Got
should try.
Should be fixed.
Yeah, I don't know why Peter couldn't, but certainly for the attendees,
Yeah.
it was not right. So
Okay.
thanks for bringing
What
it
am I,
up.
chopped liver here? I mean, you know, but.
You should be able to do it, Peter.
Yeah, Lori, we see that. Thank you.
All right, well, I'll just chat them out loud. So this next one's mine too, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Go on.
I fixed it for you too, Peter. We can chat with everyone, I guess. I don't know
Oh,
what.
thank the Lord. So this is a request for a public space. This is a public space application for residents at 5619 Western Avenue Northwest. I think this is, I've been to the site. Lori Lipstein, who is the owner, I think is on, although she is piping in from afar and from a business meeting. And she is happy to take questions. What this is a driveway that they're off of Western, where the driveway as it currently exists doesn't have room for 2 cars. And what they are asking is to open up a triangular space on one side so they can park 2 cars. They are not asking for any expansion of the curb cut. It just turns out that a piece of the triangle is in front of, in the public, in the building restriction area. And so they need, they apparently need public service.
It's in the 40s or 50s.
Hold on a second, let John.
I got it.
Okay. I think this is routine. I'm happy to have Lori. Lori, do you have some, anything you'd like to share on the screen or?
I can show a visual, and sorry for I am on a business trip. I stepped out and I'm sitting in the car to do this to my team, so I'm in the dark. But I can share my screen and show you what I am talking about, what I'm asking for. It says I just need permission.
I gave you permission.
Okay, and while Lori is doing that, let me just say, this poor woman has been at this since I think April. Apparently, this has been brooded about in the city administration for some time. So
January, actually.
January, I'm sorry. So,
No,
anyway.
I'm very pleased to be here right now, and hopefully this is the last step. So I am on Western Avenue. We are one of the only 2 like landlocked houses on Western where we do not back up to an alley. There is no back access for us. We have a driveway where right now we can only park tandem as far as being able to get cars in and out. When we park on Western Avenue, even legally during the times you're allowed to, people lay on their horn, honk. My husband's car has been hit. It's really dangerous. We would prefer not to ever be parking on Western Avenue anymore. So we'd like to expand our driveway. What I have here is in red. This triangle is the part that's in question for the Public Space Committee. It's in front of the building restriction line. So curb cut, this is what already exists. Our driveway comes up this way now. From here over is behind the building restriction line, so there's no problem. But for us to park a car here and actually get it out without moving the other one, we need this flare, if you will, to the driveway where this red triangle is. So
And Lori, just so people understand, roughly speaking, this is how many square feet? I mean, this is
about like 4 more feet from the driveway that exists.
okay.
This is our driveway now. We're waiting to be able to do the construction. It's just this flare out here. You can see from where the car is there. I don't know if it's So just a little bit of change there. That the public space committee, public space sent to the committee for approval. I did talk to both of my immediate neighbors. There are no issues from them. Across the street from me is Maryland, so I haven't asked them if they care from across the street, but on my side of the street, on the district side, no issues from the direct houses on either side of us.
Do the commissioners have any questions?
Lori, where is the building restriction line on your diagram? Right at the front of the
Right.
house?
Yeah, it's, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Whoops.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just right here, flush to the side of the house. So just the red triangle is the part, what's
Oh,
over here already exists. This red triangle is the part in question.
Right.
What are these arrows on the bottom here, Lori?
Oh, this is we did a project in the back, like we're kind of redoing all the landscaping. The arrows are about drainage. That's for the rest of the project for the drainage. So the back, everything in the back was already approved. It's actually been completed. That was all done through DCRA. Urban Forestry has already, all the tree protection, everything is done except this part about expanding the driveway there through public space. Everything else has been approved through the other appropriate committees.
Can you share with us where Western is with your cursor on here?
Right here along the front. I am on Western Avenue.
Got it. Okay, right. And you're just trying to turn in safely two cars to park parallel to each other rather than one in front, one behind, correct?
Correct. What happens now is that if I come home, when my husband's not home, I park his car on the street. I get in my car, I move it in, I get back in his car, I move it in. Like we're doing like musical cars because he drives to work early in the morning, and it's very hard for us to move the cars during rush hour in the morning to let him out if I come in after him. And so we just want to be able to put both of them next to each other with either person being allowed to exit the driveway without moving the other cars around onto Western.
To be safe.
Yeah. And I think it'll honestly, I mean, when we do park on Western, which is allowed except for any time during rush hour, it really messes up the flow of traffic. We're some of the only ones putting a car there, and people hate it. So we would love to leave our car off of that road and help all of the flow of traffic as much as possible.
Okay, Lori, if you can take your screen down, I think, thank you.
Do commissioners have any other questions for Lori? I mean, I think this is a simple case, a reasonable ask. I don't know why it's taken so long. So with that, can we take a vote, Lisa?
Yeah, let me just also call, if any members of the community watching have any questions, please raise your hand. It doesn't look like it. Yeah, we can call for the vote, Peter.
Okay, all in favor of supporting this application? Good, thank you. Thank you, Lori. Thank you for your
Lori.
patience.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
you. So that vote was 5-0. Okay. Next up is Maret and ECC update. If we could get everyone, Stephanie, Trey, everyone on that panel to raise your hands. Amy, thank you. Okay, I think we got everybody. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Trey, Amy.
Hi, how's everyone?
Good. And Stephanie, you're gonna go first, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Renee, she needs co-host. And just for the members of the community, this is, oh, great, Marjo. Okay, good. We got everybody on here. We're going to get an update on the construction going on at ECC with the field. So we have representatives from Maret and ECC to kind of talk us through it. And they also have a visual presentation. So this is just an update to see where they are with construction and how things are going. Stephanie, you want to start off? You're welcome.
Great. Thank you all. It's good to be back. I can't believe that summer's over, but here we are. with school and back to school. So I just wanted to give a brief update, if I may. And Amy's on the bottom of the screen, and she's going to assist me with a couple just visuals. Right, Amy?
Yes, it says host is disabled screen share.
I'll make you a co-host as well, Amy. Hold on.
Thank you, Randy.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
Great. So indeed, we're making a lot of improvements at the Episcopal Center. When we last spoke, we were talking about the beginning and our hopes toward construction. And pick it back up just a little bit. And indeed, we've moved to that end. You ready, Amy? Okay, you're while she's getting that together.
Sorry, I just need to fix one.
No, that's okay. While she's getting that together, indeed, we were talking about it, and amid still a pandemic, needless to say, construction and trying to move forward with that has been more than a notion, I will say. But yet and still, we've started. Our construction permit was official in the end of July 25th to be exact. There was a lot of preliminary issues that we had to address before that, things like our lead abatement, mold abatement, asbestos. There were certain areas that we wanted to address. So we were taking care of that sort of pre-construction steps beforehand, before the July 2022. That's great, Amy. We can skip to the next one. So obviously for safety, it started off with some fencing that is around the perimeter of the Episcopal Center. We have several buildings, but facing Utah. This is sort of on the corner of Nebraska and Utah. And then to the other side going toward Utah, there's also, I don't think there's a good photo of that, but it flanks Utah and then also around Nebraska. The second one in the middle, now with the screening, the privacy screening, is facing Nebraska. And then the third one that you see is actually in the back where some of the staging of the construction permit, construction vehicles and things of that nature are located in our back parking lot. So that one is actually around what we call our disciple trees, that last one. Thank you, Amy. We can skip to the next. Interior wise, so many of you, it's been sort of a mystery in the Episcopal Center. So some of these might not have as much meaning to others, but what we've done is certain areas have been expanded. Our classroom sizes for the population we were serving were quite small. And because we also used to be an orphanage in the past in a residential sort of facility, many of the rooms were small because some of them were bedrooms, and some of the rooms had bathrooms, bathtubs. So there was a lot of renovation that we needed to do. And the one on the top was a smaller classroom that we worked to expand to be able to take into consideration, not so much more students per se, but that nowadays there's students that we serve that have dedicated aides. There's one-to-one aides in situations where we want to make sure that we have the space, especially with what I'm going to say is still amid a pandemic, to safely have children navigate through spaces. So our classroom sizes in several of the smaller rooms have been expanded. The bottom one is the precursor of what will be a sensory room. For some of our students that have OT and speech and language issues, there's going to be a wing that will be able to address those needs. So those used to be two smaller offices that now would be expanded. And if you can kind of see some framing in that they've started, that drywall will be added. So it's sort of exciting for anyone who knows what it used to look like, that we indeed are doing this internal work. Thank you, Amy. We'll go to the next. That is our gymnasium that at one point had blue sort of padding along the hall, along the walls for safety. We will be putting that back, but that blue padding, needless to say, during our time of closing, left much to be desired. So that's all been removed. Any mold that was there underneath of those after the time that it was sitting has been removed. There's new lighting. The floor will be having some new flooring, and that what you see there is actually terrazzo that was hidden under there. But that's obviously that hard terrazzo will not be safe for a gym. So there will be a different flooring that has yet to be installed. The back, the basketball hoop will be one that can go up and down that right now is not shown. It's in that sort of white area on the far left. There'll be some air conditioning and better ventilation. We had ventilation, but it was not air conditioned down there. So we're really excited about that new start as well. So that's just what will also be a multi-purpose room. What you can't see on the other side, there's a small stage. There'll be some additional lighting and some updates that will happen there, as well as a pull-down screen. So we're really excited that that would be a multi-purpose room, as well as a gymnasium. It's not an official size gymnasium. It does make the children feel lovely when they can actually make a basket, because the basket is lower than standard size. But we're really excited about that use, not just for our potential therapeutic program, but also for our recreational after-school program that we're planning for. This will be a room that will be greatly used for that. Amy, we'll go one more time. This slide, actually, I checked with Good for Goods, and I was excited to add this because we've actually gotten a lot of, how can I say, positive remarks and inquiries from the community, because Good for Goods was an organization that has been in our ward for quite a while, but was housed in part in a wonderful woman's home. And she was storing and had volunteers while they were packing and stacking and providing many goods for our community and beyond. Other wards, various things, whether it's toiletries, things for our seniors, all different kinds of needs. And most recently, as many of you know, DC has many migrants from from Texas, I'm sorry, that have come into our community. So there's been a deluge, in a good way, of goods that have been donated from our community. And this particular picture was so recent that the things were too big, and so they're sitting there outside the lawn, but they do such a great job with being able to get those things in and sorted. So our building A, which you cannot see that, but it's facing Nebraska, we have them in a few of our rooms where they're able to store these goods, label them, size them, and do all sorts of things that are lovely, and taking out of this woman's living room, where she had basically volunteered her home, and now we're able to house them in our building A. So we're really excited that they're there and the work they're doing. And so that's a picture of Goods for Good. And then just another sort of community service that I'd like to call it a community service is Lafayette. There's a few teams associated with Lafayette's elementary school that still use our backfield for soccer, usually in the spring and then again in the fall. So they're gearing up for just that, probably, if not this week, the beginning of next week. It's typically two times a week. As far as I know, there's just two teams this year, the Lobsters and the Lions, but that will be happening again as well. So while there is construction activity and not yet our students, there's still some other vibrancy on our campus, and I'm excited about that. I don't have more slides, but I am happy to answer any questions, because we have been sending out monthly an update to many in the community, to the emails that we have, and to the listserv, but I'm aware that not everyone is captured in that way. So this may have been a surprise when people saw sort of the fencing and wondering what was going on. So that is my email. If you would like us to, if you'd like us to add your name or email, we'd be happy to do that. Please, please, if you're already on our email, but not getting updates in a monthly way, it may be that things are going into the trash mode, or what do you call it? People spam or trash mode. So please check that, and then please let me know by way of email, and I'd be happy to add anyone that may have further inquiry. And my phone number is not there, but I'm happy to give that as well. It is 202-363-1333. And I'll answer any questions that folks may have.
Connie had her hand up, and then John.
Okay. Hey, Connie.
Hi. It's so nice to see the interior being changed. It looks so bright and nice. So I'm very happy for everyone. I just wanted to ask you the timing of when the interior will be done and what you're thinking about in terms of bringing
Absolutely
again. Yeah.
Thank you for asking. While the process is going a bit slower than I hoped, we are moving along. My intention, our hope, is that potentially, I'm saying this with prayer and fingers crossed, that we might even be able to begin second semester, which would be January, for an after-school program. That is very, very optimistic. If that doesn't work out, our primary programming that we've already planned for our therapeutic program would be in the fall of 2023, so next school year. Our students typically had what we call ESY, is extended school year. So they were often beginning in June to sort of get their feet wet and sort of transition in before the fall. So if things go continuing to plan with construction, we would be able to be on target for that. It's the after school program that seems rather sort of back and forth, that we're yet sure. So I'm going to continue to monitor that. Otherwise, we'll be looking at the fall of 2023 for both programming, with potentially that spring for our ESY students.
And how will you advertise that if you're really planning for next year? So families who are commuting so long going elsewhere, how would they know?
Are you talking about the after school program in particular?
No, we're talking about your therapeutic program.
Oh, our therapeutic program.
How
Yeah, I continue to be in conversations with the OSSI, which is where most of our referrals take place. So our application with them is, again, sort of an iterative process where I continue to be in touch with them to sort of let them know how our construction is progressing. They have what they call placement monitors, and program monitors. So those are the folks that I've been talking with, as well as other jurisdictions that we were serving in Virginia and also Montgomery County. It will probably be kind of a softer start with DC first, and probably more through a K-3. It's really hard to know. We've had such a backlog with students that need services that it takes a while till they actually get those services. They have an IEP. There's been sort of a need identified, but how they actually get referred and the timing is something that OSSI is still working on. But they're well aware of our time frame, and I continue to stay in touch with them about how we're progressing. John had a question.
Yes. Stephanie, it's really good to see the progress here. I'm sure you're really excited about how things are going.
I am indeed.
I did have the pleasure of going through the interior with former Commissioner Frombaluti, as you recall, if I remember correctly. The conversion of the bedrooms, that's designed to meet student pupil room requirements for DCPS, or the ratio for that. Is that correct?
Yes, we always were able to meet sort of ratios that were about 1 to 6, 1 to 7. That will continue. It's about the use of space, and that some of those classrooms, even with that small ratio, were just rather small, John. So that not all of them, but a couple of the ones that I'm expanding. So between our two buildings, we feel that we'll still be able to use what we believe in will be a K-6. When we transitioned from our program, we went up to 8th grade. We're going back down to sort of our I'm going to say our wheelhouse, our sweet spot, which was K-6. And we'll have enough classrooms to do that and enough space to do that.
Okay, are you up on the 3rd floor? As I recall, you had your counseling rooms. Are you making any modifications there?
The 3rd floor had already had renovations. Gosh, that was back in the early mid 80s, and it is still in fine shape. Those will be offices, continue to be offices. We have the sort of two-way mirrors that facilitate for group therapy. That will continue. So there's no construction on that floor that's indicated, but we will continue to use that for our programming, and maybe even consider how we might be able to make access for community use in terms of, you know, offices that people have been asking about in terms of diagnosis testing and so forth that we might do in the evenings. That's sort of a forward thinking opportunity, but no work construction wise is being done up there.
And just one more thing, I got distracted for a minute. So I didn't see exactly where your multi-purpose gym is. Is that in the basement?
That is in the lower level of building A, I'm sorry, of building B. And many may know, some may not know, that those buildings are connected by tunnels. So
Right.
there's an inward tunnel between that building B and building C. Building C has the recreational sort of art room, recreational space where there's like ping pong and pool table, computer room, things of that nature that will be used again for our dual purposes with the therapeutic program and the day after school program.
Well, from my recollection, this is a very significant upgrade from when I went through that a year or so ago. So congratulations on that. It
Yes,
looks
thank you
very
so
good.
much. We're very excited. Thank you.
Any more commissioner questions? Okay. Trey, were you going to do a presentation as well, a separate presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We're ready when you are.
Okay.
You need to share your screen, Trey?
I do, yes.
Okay, I'll make you a co-host.
All right. All right.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was a great presentation.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. I'm off mute, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we will jump right in. This is a little bit about what we're going to go over tonight with you. So we're happy to be here tonight. Come back. Want to make sure we're fulfilling what we said we would do and providing updates to you all as we progress along the way. So we're happy to be here. I think we were with you last September at your meeting. So here we are a year later with a lot of things that have happened. I'll do some quick reminders for those that have been around and as something fresh for those who are new. So this project is going to create a multi-sport athletic field and baseball diamond on the grounds behind ECC's existing buildings. These fields will allow our school to fulfill our mission, foster academic, artistic, and athletic talents of our students. Additionally, the partnership with ECC will support their long-term vitality and viability. As you've heard from Stephanie just now, they've got big plans for the center. And this partnership between the two schools is going to help support that. And then I also wanted to note for anybody on the call who's new that Maret did reach an agreement with the ANC earlier this year to allow other youth sports organizations outside of Maret to use the field, ECC and DCPS students, as well as members of the community to use the field. So we really are hoping that the space will be transformed into a true neighborhood asset. So I'm not going to go into all these pieces here in detail. You can kind of read it as I talk. But what's basically outlined here is a lot of the community engagement work that Maret went through last fall to engage everybody, ensure our plans were responsive to everybody and respectful of the interests of nearby neighbors. In direct response to the wide range of feedback that we received, along the way, we made several significant updates to our proposal prior to the final submission to both the ANC and the BZA for approval. And while we know that not every constituency in the neighborhood got its desired outcomes in the project, we're proud of the collaborative community process we engaged in with the neighborhood. This included numerous in-person meetings in alleys and in homes last fall, virtual meetings where we presented our plans, and one-on-one meetings in backyards of neighbors that myself and Marjo went to and really worked through a number of items with neighbors. Ultimately, we received approval from the Public Space Committee. We, as I mentioned, had the agreement with the ANC and received unanimous backing from the ANC for the project, and then a unanimous vote of approval from the BZA in April, which you see there at the bottom. So I'm going to go over now a little bit of what we've been up to on the site. So in the spring and in the summer of kind of this year, we've done a lot of work on the heritage trees. There are 6 heritage trees on the site that are going to remain in some form or fashion. 2 are remaining in place where they are and not being moved. 4 of them are slated to be transplanted. For the 4 trees that are slated to be transplanted, we pruned the leaf canopies of those trees and we pruned the roots of those trees in preparation for them to be moved. We also installed an irrigation system for those 4 trees. So there's an irrigation system that comes out of the basement of the media center of the ECC, and it's an automated system. So there's a moisture meter in the ground. When the moisture meter says the trees need more water based on rainfall, the trees get more water. So we've been watering those trees. The trees are also being monitored by our arborists, and the arborist reports that the trees are doing well. They're out there on a weekly basis to go and check on the trees. So they've been doing that and checking on them. One of the things we've also been doing is we've been working with our engineers from Vica Capital, getting our plans to the permit ready state. So that's a little bit of what we've that's a summary of what we've been up to the last, I would call it 4 to 6 months since we were last here with the ANC. In terms of anticipated activities for the fall, the heritage trees will continue to be cared for as we anticipate their move happening once the leaves have fallen off of them. So that will be sometime, the window for that kind of opens in early November. We've been advised that by our arborist that you need to wait until that time in order to move the trees. So we'll care for them until that time occurs. They'll be watered and monitored as we've been doing. When the trees are moved, it will be done in accordance with our tree transplant plan that DDOT Urban Forestry approves. We also will work with DOEE on sediment and erosion control for that tree transplant to mitigate any runoff that may happen. We're also preparing for the removal of the other trees on the site that are not remaining or that are not being transplanted. This is done in accordance with our tree preservation plan that we work with urban forestry on. There are a lot of trees on the site that will be removed, but I also want to add the reminder that there are the trees that are being preserved up by the ECC space. And as part of our agreement with the neighborhood, we will be coming back and doing a number of plantings along the perimeter of the site as screening to contribute to adding back canopy there. We have a landscape design firm that we've brought on board that we're going to work with. They're going to be helping us make good selections for the site, not just aesthetically pleasing, but native type of things that will fit well with the site, not just aesthetically, but environmentally. And of course, throughout all this, as I mentioned, we'll continue to work closely with DDOT Urban Forestry. If any adjustments are needed, we'll certainly make those adjustments in coordination with our arborists. The folks that are moving the trees have a lot of experience doing this type of work. They're nationally known. And Dan Just, before he located, pretty much called them the premier firm in the country for doing this type of work. So we feel good about working with them. the ANC agreement that we struck last spring, and it has extensive construction related conditions and monitoring requirements that we'll comply with. So we want to make sure we're doing that, meeting our commitments to the neighborhood. One thing I also want to mention is in that agreement, it does note that we can utilize the Rittenhouse and Utah alleys as we care for the heritage trees. So I just wanted to add that reminder for folks that you may see activity there as we move into the fall and we begin that work. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, we're still working with VICA on getting plans ready for the permitting stage. So as we continue to move forward, we'll continue to engage with the community. We'll come back here and make another presentation to the ANC if that's needed, and continue to make sure we provide regular updates. Our team is planning a direct mail communication to 500 or so neighbors surrounding the site. So folks should keep their eyes out for a mail piece arriving in their mailbox. We continue to make ourselves available if there are briefings that should be made to any neighborhood groups or civic organizations, as we did over the course of the last 12 months. We've got our project website that's listed here, and then we have our email address where folks can send questions. If they have any questions about what's happening, just trying to get a general update, we're happy to answer questions from that. And commissioners, I can send our presentation along so you can post that on the ANC's website.
Thank you.
So that's it for me. That's all I have. And so I'll stop sharing.
We definitely got questions for you, Trey.
Sure.
Connie, I think was first, then John, and then we have a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay, so I just wanted to thank you so much, Trey. I really appreciate the presentation and all the work that you guys have been doing. Just thought for those who are not aware, and just as a reminder, what is the timeline going forward in actually constructing the fields and so forth? Can you give us a little bit of that?
Sure. So the sequencing is the tree piece first. It's tree removal that I mentioned, and then it's tree transplant. Our window for doing that is kind of between November and February. Depending on how the weather cooperates and when the leaves fall off the trees will dictate kind of officially when you can really move the trees. And so then it comes to permitting. So permitting can take some time. We hope to have our plans kind of ready and able to submit when we have our final written order. Generally, you can get your permits kind of reviewed before you have your written order, but they won't stamp them until you have your written order. So once we have that written order, we know we can get our permits. If all goes well, we could be in position to start construction as early as, I would say, late spring of 2023. And then from there, I would just say in terms of how long the construction takes, we currently are guessing that could be a 4 to 6 month process, but that's a guess.
Thank you for that.
John?
Thanks, Trey, for the update and for your offer to continue updating us. I think perhaps maybe not now, but we should get together in a little bit and go through, maybe set up a process for kind of a checklist with what you're doing and what is in the memorandum of understanding between Maret and the ANC, as was approved by the Board of Zoning Adjustment. So if you're open to doing that, we should set up a time and begin to dialogue about that.
Definitely.
And one more question on the permitting and so forth and the written order. Does Paul have any information about when we might get a written order?
So Paul doesn't have any. He's got a bit of a crystal ball based on what he sees in other cases. We are hoping that maybe in the 60-day range we could see something. We're hopeful. Fingers crossed.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just follow up on the checklist then. That would be good.
Let's see. There were a couple of questions. One of the questions I wanted to ask about is also in the chat. One question was about turf versus grass, and I think that was Peter Lynch. I'm trying to find it. He asked about, will there be an effort to keep the grass and not use turf?
Yeah, so we are planning for a turf field, a synthetic turf field. That's kind of what our engineering plans for. And so that's what we're doing in order to have community use by, youth sports organizations and for Maret's use. You really do need to have that synthetic turf field in order for it to hold up under that type of usage. So that's what we're planning for. Marjo, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to say on that.
Yeah, having worked on different fields over the last 30 years, they're continually changing, developing, analyzing what is the best use. So we're going to continue to evaluate the latest technologies and advances up until the time we put it through. We are, ensuring that whatever we do as an infrastructure can be used for whatever turf that we decide makes the most sense. We're going to ensure that what we do is also really going to be effective with water storm management. So we don't need to make final decisions. In fact, when we last did our turf field at Maret, we changed about 2 weeks beforehand what the infill was going to be.
Okay. There is another question in the chat, and John, I'll definitely come to you after this, which I kind of wanted to update on is the Jelliff contract. Can you guys give us a little, I'm trying to say, so Peter said, also does Maret still use a Jelliff field in Georgetown? And I know that came up in the whole discussion, if there is a possibility that might be able to go back to the city. Can you guys give us a little update of if anything has occurred on that?
Sure. I think that we've been fairly consistent about this. We believe as a school that we want as many people to use fields as possible. We are lucky that we have access to Jelliff for the hours that we do until 2029. We are always looking at ways when we're not using the field to have DPR determine other people who get permitting on that field. We do not permit the field, that's DPR. If we are able to provide good access to our kids and ultimately release some of that, we'll work with DPR on that agreement. But that's where we are right now. We absolutely are using Jelliff at this point and taking care of the field so many, many people can use it. Does that answer your question, Lisa?
Yeah. And one last follow-up from Mr. Lynch. Was there an environmental study done to understand the impact of uprooting trees and using turf? And yeah, you guys can explain that to him.
Sure. So the way that it kind of works is when you go into the permitting stage, that's when DOE, the Department of Environment and Energy, looks at your plans and they say, what does your plan do in terms of stormwater runoff, collecting that water, making sure it goes to the right place? So at that point, that's when that work is done. Now, of course, our engineers are seasoned in working in the city and working with DOE. They know what's expected. And so, they know to draw up a plan that's going to pass muster with DOE, but that's the point where you do that and make sure you're hitting all the marks. And of course, if your plan doesn't pass the city's, regulatory muster, then they're going to tell you to go back to the drawing board and do it again.
John?
Yeah, Trey, maybe you can refresh my memory here, but I think when this issue came up before, we were talking about kind of hybrid systems, I guess you might call it, with an organic infill using things like cork and coconut and things like that as a base. And you were checking into those kinds of options. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. I mean, we currently use, it's called Brockfill. It's a wood infill as opposed to the rubber pellets. And so, I would say, right now that seems to be the best product on the market, but we have a project manager who's been interfacing with the turf companies a lot, trying to figure out like what is the best available thing out there on the market right now that we can put in our field. So again, like Marjo said, late breaking technology can happen, and you may get, the next best thing, 2 weeks before you go to construction, and you may make a change. So we're always evaluating those options.
There's a couple comments in the chat from Maura and Peter. If you guys have specific questions, raise your hands where they're discussing the equity piece with the Jello fields. The ANC has definitely touched on that in the past. That's something that's not lost from my mind for sure, but I just want to alert that to you guys. If you guys could see those comments, if you want to add anything to them.
I would like to just add a little bit, Lisa. I really appreciate the comments and the concerns, and I'm absolutely happy to talk to Peter and Maura as well. Maret has worked with the city throughout many years of developing fields that are not just used by Maret, but by all the DC kids. Our own field at 3000 Cathedral Avenue is a home to DC Stoddard and many other programs, because we know that there's a dearth of fields. The Jella field actually didn't really exist until we recreated it in 2009, and we only use it about 10% of the time. Now, in honesty, we do have access to the field after school in the fall and spring, but there are many, 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 many children who are using that field and getting great benefits from it. We also think that the ECC field and project will allow for city youth to also have more access to fields. So we agree with the concern, and we are part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Peter?
Just so I understand, though, you are not engaged in any conversation with DPR or the city now about seeding ground on the Jella field. I mean, and if that's true, then when do you expect that conversation to start? I mean, is it when you start using the Maret field, the ECC facility, I can't quite remember what our agreement with you was about, whether there was any sort of timetable, but is
Peter,
there a timetable?
We will not, capture or keep a field that we are not needing. And our needs for soccer, lacrosse, football, baseball will be met by the ECC project. And certainly DPR and many people in the city know about this hopeful project, and we will certainly engage in conversations. We have a commitment to Jellif to keep those fields in prime shape, and we want to fulfill those commitments. So that's a conversation with DPR, but in no way are we going to jealously hold on to fields that we don't actually need. So we've tried to be as clear about that as possible.
And I think there's definitely at some point in time, tonight is not the night to go further into that discussion, Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine, that's fine.
Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, Stephanie, I know you wanted to add one more point.
I do. Thank you so much. And thank you, Trey and Marjo, for that summary and update. And quite frankly, for reminding folks about the partnership and what's going on with Maret is really helping ECC with what our venture is and the various updates that you just saw that we're working toward. But I wanted to jump back on because I wanted folks to feel free to contact me should, let's say, contractors, subcontractors, particularly on Nebraska and Utah, there's some overflow of parking that can't be contained within our inner driveway and some of that staging area that you saw in the fencing around the trees. So I just wanted people to please contact me should there be any issues, something that you might observe, or if there's anything untoward in terms of parking, or I'm not sure, I don't want to call it out because I haven't had any issues, but really working hard with the contractors and subcontractors to be aware that this is a neighborhood and to be very careful and very mindful of how they're parking and what's going on. So I just wanted people, again, to use my phone number and email in that way so that we remain sensitive and conscious of the neighborhood. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, if no further questions, thank you all. We'll definitely be scheduling another update, hopefully soon. And those issues are not lost on ANC. We'll get back on them. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Appreciate it. Okay, next up is our Racial and Social Equity Committee update. And I think Libby Martin is going to be giving a committee report. Libby, we will elevate you. Hey, Libby.
See. Hi, everybody. Are you supposed to see me on the screen?
Yes.
Preferably, you
Okay,
want to be seen. There you go.
Nice to see everyone.
Nice to see
My
you.
name is Libby Martin, and I am a member of Racial and Social Equity Committee and was a member of the Task Force on Racism, which was the precursor. I'm just going to report out on a couple items that we have been discussing as a committee. First of all, we last met on August 30th at 7 p.m. Our next meeting will be September 20th, also at 7 p.m. And there are 3 agenda items and also an event that we'd like people to know about. First of all, it's the Call Box Rehabilitation Project and 2 recommendations that have been made by Race. Second item is a campaign to make Chevy Chase a designated historic district. Third is an issue involving committee membership. Fourth is the event that I just mentioned, and I'll talk about that right away. So I can put the registration link into the chat immediately. It is a series of anti-racism webinars that are being offered by Friendship Place over on Wisconsin Avenue. And the Office of Racial Equity, the DC Council has been doing a great job helping get the word out. It is going to be the first event is Wednesday at noon, and it will be a series of webinars. This is the first one. And in particular, it will touch on, in more detail, will provide a foundational understanding of racism. Specifically, this webinar will explore the historical context of race classification and our current understanding of race as a social construct. There will be 2 excellent speakers, and of course it's free and open to everyone. So, we really hope that people will take advantage of this opportunity and, join us in this move to educate ourselves and make progress as a community. So going back to our initial item, the Call Box Rehabilitation Project. I don't really know which one to mention first, but I know that there are about 4 different groups that are sponsoring these texts that are, the Call Box Rehabilitation Project is decorating or providing texts to decorate. I think they're primarily on the corners. And in particular, the east side of Connecticut Avenue and corner of Oliver Street has a call box. The text that was provided by the group was reviewed by Race, and the recommendations were that initially the text talks about how Chevy Chase was founded as a streetcar community. And we in race, feeling that it's very important for the historical facts to be well-rounded when we're talking about the history of Chevy Chase, wanted to point out that this streetcar was in fact used in a racially exclusive way. Our community was, the streetcar was used by Black people who worked as domestic servants in the neighborhood. And so they took the streetcar to arrive here, do their service to our white or exclusive neighborhood, and then return outside of the city. And incidentally, Chevy Chase was considered a sunset sunrise community where Black people were subject to what's called sunrise and sunset rules, meaning that they were required to arrive for work after sunrise and depart before sunset. And these are just important parts of our history. So we wanted to make sure that that is something that is considered. Regarding a second call box, there is text that was to honor the developer, Mr. F. Gordon, who played a big role in the planning and development of Chevy Chase. The call box in question is on Morrison Street, and race members, when they learned about the text and considering it, wrote to the ANC stating that this was very concerning because Mr. Gordon insisted on using racial covenants in his planning and development of Chevy Chase. And race feels that he should not be honored, or that if so, his racist acts that displaced people of color must be equally emphasized when we're talking about our history. And going forward, the ANC would like to request to review all future designs. That's our recommendation, that the ANC request to review future designs. And I believe that Chair Gore has forwarded this, it's a letter to the ANC. So Lisa, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, we can deal with that. So Libby, thank you so much for giving the committee report. Great job. Saved me and Randy definitely some time, and definitely appreciate it.
There you go.
Yeah, great update. But I do want to follow up and go over the recommendation that came down from race that I sent to the ANC probably last week or sometime. So please remember, commissioners, that when we get a recommendation, we have to dispose of it. And race, this is a recommendation that they put in writing to us, where it was pretty much two-part, I believe, where they took a stand and they wanted us to take a stand on the Gordon nomination. So I'll talk about that. And then the second part of the recommendation was that the ANC review the designs, and they wanted us to review those designs from, pretty much the equity perspective and historical perspective in terms of racial equity. In terms of the first recommendation about Gordon, I spoke with Ed Hayes. Also, we got some information from Chaz, and the Gordon is not going to be a nominee. He will not be honored, on the call boxes. So I think I feel 100% safe and secure there, especially after speaking with Ed today. So the second part of that was, if he celebrated, race recommended that the call box should refer to the equally constitutive act of contributing to creating a white enclave, an active role. So I don't think we have to worry about dealing with that second half, but I do think we can officially respond to race and letting them know what Historic Chevy Chase DC has said about the Gordon nomination, as well as what Ed has said about the Gordon nomination, so that they feel comfortable that we've addressed the recommendation and we've provided them back a written response. And then regarding the second part, this one is on the table still, the recommendation that the ANC review all designs before the artist begins work. That's what we need to discuss right now because we have an official recommendation from the committee. So that being said, I open it up to the commissioners to kind of give me your feedback and how you feel about that second recommendation and how we should handle that. Peter? You're on mute.
This is just my first impression. I understand the need. I can support the need to review the language that goes with this stuff, but I'm not wild about government agencies, even one as small as us, basically being the gatekeepers for the art. I mean, these things may meld together, but I guess I wonder whether whatever the context building that the language, that the verbiage gives, I think is important. I mean, the art's important. I just don't think we should be putting ourselves in the position of being the arbiters of the art. That's my first reaction to this.
Anybody else? John? Then Connie.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Peter on this. I think we have the race committee. I think we're all sensitive to these issues. But I have a little bit of a reservation in that whether this could possibly keep expanding to dimensions in which we don't want to go to in the future. Not that we want to be ignorant of these issues, of course not, but just in terms of this sort of acting as a precedent to be applied in context that we can't even foresee right now. I'm a little bit cautious about that.
Well, I have a few questions. One is, what is the history of our role in something like this? So I think it's like two parts. One is we did give a grant, right, to HCCDC to start on renovating, completing a call box, pursuing this project. I think because we gave a grant, I think we do have a say, in sort of a say, I would suppose, like if it's completely against everything that we've been working on, I'm not sure how we could really be supportive. So I think in that case, I see a role, but I don't know in the past, what have we done? Like in a community like ours, I mean, beautification projects and so forth. I mean, there's going to be texts. I would think, I'm thinking like commemorative plaques on the sidewalks, those kinds of things that I've myself recommended, for us to like have some historical facts, interesting things as we walk along to be able to see who's the final arbiter of those kinds of things. I think this is just, I'm throwing out that question. So for me, with HCCDC involved as one party to the beautification of those call boxes, I kind of feel like, they would be kind of held to arguing for why one text, not another. I would want to have their voice, in it, and especially because they did come to us and they've done many projects related to our own history, especially the Lafayette Pointer Park. I mean, I feel like all of these things are good. We need to understand that history, and we need to understand every person's role in the past if we're going to honor someone, I think. And this is the same with Francis Newland. So I don't know, Randy, you're the longest serving member. Has this come up in your 5 terms at all? To give us a little bit of—
No, in general, no. The only analogous situation I can think of is when we had a bench that was dedicated to Julian Bond, and it's right there at the community center. And we did have a say in what was on that plaque, although that was what he had asked for as well. So it was a no-brainer.
But it was brought forward to the commission for us to speak.
Well, we were the ones who sponsored it. and got it done. It required a DDOT permit and a lot of other things. And so we were the ones who got it done. But I don't remember another instance, especially, but given the fact that we have a grant to HCCDC, I think that gives us some right or authority to ask for a review. That's not to say we would have a veto. I wouldn't say that. But especially, I think you're right, Peter, with regard to any text, that would certainly be the case. But I don't think there's a real strong precedent for anything in this instance.
John?
Yeah, Randy, I was going to, Randy kind of led into my question, because with the call box grant, that was to the historic DC, and they forwarded this, or this Gordon thing came up. The grant did not, we did not say anything in the grant about what the name
No.
of anything could be. But on the other hand, we have made statements about Newlands and Chevy Chase Circle. And so I pointed up in our discussions that it would be inconsistent for us, say, to approve Gordon while having the prior, kind of precedent of Newlands. So I think the way that you handle that with a sort of an informal expression that there is an inconsistency here, I think probably Mr. Hayes and his group thought it over and withdrew that.
Let me clarify one thing, John, though. This was not a nomination from anyone at HCCDC. It was a nomination by somebody on the listserv.
Right.
And
okay.
So we were proactively letting the HCCDC know what the race committee, about how the race committee evaluated that. So it was never, as far as we know, and I think Chaz confirmed this, it was, and Carl Ankowski too, that it was never formally considered by HCCDC.
Okay.
Right.
But at any rate, the idea was inconsistent with a prior decision by the commission.
Right.
And to be consistent with that, I think advising HCC of that inconsistency was proper, and they were sensitive to it, and we are where we are. I think we can continue to handle things perhaps in that manner.
So let me just add on to that. I completely agree with you on that, John. And in terms of historic precedent, I think everyone needs to remember that our racism task force and the outcrop of that, the race committee, was formed from the George Floyd event. So we didn't have this type of committee in our community. The whole purpose of race is to look at our community differently through that equity lens. And that's what they did in this point. They saw something on the listserv that concerned them. They did their homework, and they uncovered some things that they wanted not only the ANC to take into consideration, but historic Chevy Chase. So I think this is a perfect thing for a race to do when these things come up in a committee. They can do exactly what they've done in this instance, which was do the research homework and issue us a recommendation. I took that recommendation to Ed Hayes of Historic Chevy Chase DC today, and we're on lockstep. I mean, we're on the same page. So I don't really think there's anything out of place with their recommendation. We might want to word it a little differently to clarify the roles and what race might bring to us, and then our ability to take that on. But I think this is a perfect thing. And Libby was on the community committee along with me of the Racial Justice Task Force. And one of the things the community committee wanted to do was involve itself in the arts to make sure that artwork in our community is reflective of the entire community. So this is actually aligned with that group even way before we started the race standing committee. So I really think it's a perfect role for them to play. Peter,
Uh,
Connie, and John.
I think bringing it forward in this way served just the purpose and set off a series of conversations that, in the case of this developer, has taken care of the problem. I think in the I suggest, and I can sort this out more thoroughly if anybody's interested, but I think going forward, one, with our grants, we might want to have some language in the grant that's boilerplate that just says, you know, we expect that the recipient, is aware of the kind of positions that the ANC has taken on issues that the grant, funds. The other thing is that if we do end up in a situation where art is at the art is at the center of gravity of the dispute, my suggestion is that we deal with it not by us making a ruling, but by us convening, bringing in relevant people and groups in the community, so that it's an opinion besides that's larger than just a governmental body, small though we are, passing on art. That gives me the willies. So that's a sort of compromise idea where I think we get the results. We more often than not get good results, but we avoid government approved art or disapproved art. So thanks.
Okay, go on. Okay, Connie.
Thank you. I wanted to just clarify earlier. I think that Race bringing this up was perfect. I think that's exactly the role that we wanted in having a standing committee. So my questions wasn't directed at Race's recommendations to us. My question really was, what role do we play? And I think that we are a body, right? And I think if an issue like this comes up, it's sort of like proactiveness, right? The recommendation is that we review all the texts. And so my question about and what role do we really have? We have one grant. We could certainly review text there, but proactively reviewing text on a project that involves a lot of other, organizations, I'm not sure how to enter ourselves there. I think the only way to enter would be if they decided on text and a certain text. Let's say if they came up with text and we knew this was coming and Race got wind of it and recommended to us that they were not happy with this, then I think we can deliberate and then have a resolution to say, we are either for or against, supportive or not, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's where I was heading with the question on precedence. I absolutely believe that this is how change is going to be made. I mean, this is what we're here for, obviously, right? And this is just, I think, an example that for the future, that something like this could come up. It didn't come up in this case. It was on the listserv as an idea, and Race was reacting to it. Okay, so this is perfect for us to understand our own role. This is our standing committee. I think if the standing committee has brought something forward, it is our job to deliberate and then to make some decisions on what we're going to do with that, exactly as Lisa has said. So I just wanted to make my position clear on that.
John?
Yeah, just one final note. I agree with everything that's been said here. I think we handled it quite well with the Gordon thing. I think Peter's remarks of a minute ago are appropriate. I think handling these things on a case-by-case basis would be my preference. Peter and I come from the world of journalism where prior restraint is a big deal and generally frowned upon. So I would not want to have a hard and fast rule. I would just like to do this on a case-by-case basis as we have here. And see what happens here, see how it goes. And especially now with the Race Committee, we have an agency within the commission paying attention to these issues of racial sensitivity. And I think that's a good thing to have.
Okay. So to address these comments, do we want to, because we have to get back to Race, do we want to say that we're not going to adopt these comments or recommendations, first recommendation, because it's been resolved. There is no nomination of Gordon. Historic Chevy Chase DC is not considering that nomination. And on the second recommendation, something to the effect that we already recognize that this type of review or work is already in the purview of race. And if they bring something to us, the ANC will consider it. How do you guys want to handle specifically that second recommendation from them?
I think number one, it is important when there's a formal recommendation that comes to us that we have a formal response.
Yep.
So I agree with that first. It's a non-issue, so we should just say it. It's a non-issue because we did our own research. You know, it came to us and we had conversations, we understood what was going on, and that's a non-issue. On the second point, they can recommend that, but I think what we're saying back is if it comes to our attention, if it's raised either by race or by ourselves, we will then bring it as an agenda item and we will discuss it on a case-by-case basis. I think that that's the right way to go, because we can't head off everything, right?
Oh,
an action has to take place. And then once that action takes place, let's say it's a text that's being considered, right? Once an action takes place, we can react to that. And we can put it on the agenda, and then community members can come and they can say, they could add to that conversation or listen to that conversation, listen to the deliberation. So that is how I would, that's how I would formulate that. And then I'm happy to, you know, to support that.
Okay. John?
So are we going to pass on it tonight and maybe wait a month and get some language?
Mm-mm.
I mean,
No. I'm going to put a motion on the floor.
Motion on the floor.
No, we got to dispose of it.
We're disposing today. Yeah.
So I move that we adopt Connie's recommendation and basically report back to race that the number one recommendation is a non-issue. It's been addressed. That the second recommendation, if race brings us an issue, and we'll work on the verbiage, we will put it on our agenda, give the community an opportunity to comment and engage in discussion. And this will be done on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, that's okay. That's good.
Okay, great. All those in favor? All right.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Libby, for helping us here.
Okay. Last topic on race is we recently had race involved in the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan recommendation. They forwarded us recommendations, a set of recommendations to the ANC regarding that. The ANC did not adopt those recommendations. We didn't take those up. And subsequent to that, they were included in one of the race members' written testimony to the DC Council for the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan. One of the things that we need to discuss tonight is just that whole process. The member is here and has raised their hand, so I'm gonna put her on screen, but I really wanna start out by making it clear that we're gonna have a civil conversation on this. And we'll have a chance to, and I think it's important to hear from her more. And it's important for the commission to understand her point of view. I want everyone to consider, you know, aggravating and mitigating factors. I think there's things in this process that the ANC can do a little bit better to make things clear for members of our standing committee. And then in terms of our bylaws, one of the things that we, you know, I would like for us to consider when we're talking about this conversation is just, you know, the whole bylaw process and the process that, you know, standing committees function underneath the ANC as well as those standing committee memberships. And I think one of the issues that, well, definitely one of the issues that the committee was not happy with is they didn't know that that testimony was included in the council written format to the council. And it didn't include that the ANC did not adopt that testimony, as well as certain members of the committee really opposed that testimony. So I don't know how you guys want to do this. We can let Maura speak first. Maura did call me this afternoon. We're going back and forth on email. I called her back, but I think, Maura, you were probably already gone from work by the time I called you. So I don't know, commissioners, if you want to go first and just kind of discuss this, or we want to hear from Maura directly. I sent you guys the information that was included in her testimony. Hopefully you have read that to kind of, you know, get this to a concise conversation. There's a couple things that and I will talk on behalf of the committee. The committee, Race Standing Committee met, when was it, Libby? Last week? Yeah, you're on mute. But I think they
met on the 30th of August.
August 30th, yeah.
Thank you, August 30th, and this was on the agenda item. So they did talk about it. Regardless of what's said here tonight, there's reconciliation that needs to be done, because there are committee members that, you know, are kind of upset about what have occurred. There is a split in terms of what they felt should be done, in terms of either allowing Maura to remain on the committee or, you know, issuing a strong reprimand. The other thing that I sent to you guys is the committee or ANC can take no action. The ANC could also, you know, speak its piece. We have Maura here right with us, so we can just tell her how we feel about the whole situation and use it as an advantageous way to make our processes better and make sure our committee members are informed of the rules and regulations of how we do business here. So with that being said, Libby, did you raise your hand? Okay. One of the things that I know, John, I see your hand. One of the things that I think this is critical, just because we have to resolve issues and then also make sure that procedurally everybody is operating okay, so that we don't have issues like this flare up in the past. So it's not something that we're going to push under the table. It's been a source of discussion, and I want to get it off our plate so we can move on to other things. So with that said, John, did you want to?
Well, yeah, you've outlined the problem. I think maybe we should start with Maura telling her side and then go from there.
I agree. Okay, Maura, do you want to kind of talk about just exactly what happened and your thoughts and how it got the written part to the testimony and to the council?
Well, I think picking up on what you said, Lisa, I think it really is important to discuss having a better process and following rules and regulations. And I think it's also important to tell the truth about what happened. Mm-hmm. And not to act out of anger at being criticized as a public official. I think it's beneath even a small office of an ANC. So I think because you presented a premise that's actually factually incorrect, it's important to have the actual premise on the table as to what happened and to what it means. So as everyone here knows, the small area plan hotly debated within our community. Many residents very upset over the lack of public participation, including the lack of transparency in this ANC's process. As people remember, the meeting in which the ANC adopted its resolution on the small area plan was quite a fiasco. Lisa, I believe you actually pulled the mic on me when I was speaking. Other people were cut short, and community member after community member then got up, asked for time, and yielded to me because they wanted our voices to be heard on this issue. And the ANC in that meeting actually adopted a resolution or recommendation on the small area plan that had never been circulated to the community, despite this having been at issue for weeks. And it was something that a couple of you apparently drafted in private, circulated among yourselves, never shared with the community, voted on that night. So the ANC, the race committee had met repeatedly, and we put together recommendations. Those recommendations were transmitted to the ANC at the ANC's request. Notably, at that meeting, the ANC actually refused to even discuss them. And compare it to tonight, where Libby has talked at length about the call boxes and presented about the call boxes. There was no discussion in public at all about the race committee recommendations, because the ANC had decided they didn't want to hear it, and they didn't want the community to hear it. Now, when later that week, there was public testimony before the DC Council about the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan, I testified, as did many others. And my testimony talked about the failure of democratic processes of this committee, the failure of transparency, and also talked about the fact that those of us who are advocating, and it's important to say what the issue was, we were in favor of the small area plan having binding recommendations for affordable housing and for social housing. We're fighting to change the racist legacy of Chevy Chase, and we were shut down. So in my testimony before the DC Council, I put forward these issues. I put forward the failure of process. I put forward the issues of what had occurred at the ANC's meeting, where they jammed through their own recommendation and approval that had never been publicly circulated, the fact that people were being shut down who were trying to even discuss it, and just the failure of this whole situation. Included in there, and this is where Lisa has repeatedly made, and Randy, who signed a letter, I put forward to the ANC, to the DC Council in the testimony, the very fact that the ANC did not adopt and did not consider and did not debate the race recommendations. So it was explicitly clear, the exact opposite of what Lisa has said, which is that these were put forward to the DC Council as if the ANC had adopted them or supported them. It was explicitly the opposite. What I was saying is the ANC had outright rejected this and wouldn't consider it. And I was put in there, and I added it as an attachment to testimony that explicitly said that, and said this is, and also included in there were the hundreds of community comments that were ignored by the OP and the ANC in the process. That were thoughtful comments talking about the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan, including, again, the demand for binding rules for affordable housing, because frankly, the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan is just a giveaway to the developers. And it's a rubber stamp to give away to the developers. So this is what the issue was. Now, I learned that Lisa and Randy wrote a letter to every single member of the council about my testimony, and took the extraordinary step, which I have never seen, of public officials intervening in a legislative process of the DC Council to censor and strike testimony where that testimony was critical of them. And this is now, not only that letter said, but I wasn't even CC'd on the letter. The letter's about me, and they send the letter and they don't even CC me. I saw that letter much later. I've asked Lisa and Randy to retract the false statements, because the letter says, interestingly enough, that I, Mara Verheiden-Hilliard, have violated the bylaws of the ANC, and that I presented the race recommendations as if they were commission policy, when, as I said, I've actually explicitly said the opposite. And I've told Randy and Lisa this, and I've asked them to actually withdraw or clarify or retract in writing those false statements, because it's not true. I didn't violate any bylaws. What I did is challenge what I felt was an undemocratic process, which I'm entitled to do. I'm entitled to engage in the public process, as is everyone here, as is everyone who's listening, without being retaliated against by Lisa or Randy or anyone else, because you don't like being criticized. And that's really a fundamental problem of what happened here. We should have sunshine. These are not secret. These are all public records. There's nothing that the race committee is doing that can be cloaked in darkness. I mean, why would we not be open about this? And in fact, going to that point, you just mentioned, Libby, that you had a meeting on the 30th and that this was on the agenda. I've looked at the agendas. I don't see this on the agenda. No one contacted me and said that you were going to have a meeting to discuss this. No one's talked to me about this directly. And the meeting for the 30th, I can't even see that there was notice that there was going to be a meeting on the 30th, except like maybe on the 30th, that you were going to have a meeting that night. If we want to talk about process and violation of ANC rules, by the way, Lisa, because you were forwarding those around, the requirements for the race committee is that every meeting must be open to the public, and the public must be notified of the meeting 7 days in advance. That's not happening. So I think it's really important that we actually have a proper process and that we not undertake efforts to censor or retaliate against people because they object to the ANC's process, which is what has happened here. And I think also if we want to talk about like problems in process or following rules and regulations, I mean, Libby is a chief fundraiser for Lisa's campaign running for council. And Libby actually used the race committee listserv to fundraise for Lisa for council, circulating a request that people, well, you can laugh, Lisa, but Libby actually posted to the race committee listserv a request that we all go to a fundraiser.
No, I'm gonna stop you because that is where you're over.
But that's true. Do you want me to send you the email? Because she did.
She fundraising, Libby can speak for herself. Nobody pulled the race list and said, send fundraising email. Those are our friends. Those are people that
okay, but you're using a governmental list to fundraise for public office.
No, we did not use.
And if you're going to talk about following the rules, let's follow the rules, Lisa. You're getting very angry again.
Because you're incorrect.
I'm not cutting you off. I haven't yelled at
Excuse
you.
me.
That are not correct. And
Can-
I'm not going to
point of order, point of order.
To follow the rules.
Not going to allow you to do that.
You're not going to follow the rules.
I'm not going to allow you to make accusations about.
But that's not an accusation. That's a fact. There was an email sent to the race committee listserv asking all of us to come to a fundraiser for you, and it was sent by Libby.
Excuse me.
That happened.
Can we?
Like, I don't think it's a big deal, but it did happen. And if we're going to follow the rules, we need to follow the rules.
Talking about. And we're not. And if you want to talk about that, we can talk about that. But you're not going to use this forum to do that.
You're talking about you said, should I be reprimanded for violations? I violated no rules. But Lisa, I have not violated.
Hey. Can we just stop? Both of you, stop. This is no way to conduct ourselves.
Peter.
Not a problem. Listen.
No, there's no DPL. First of all. You can ask us to stop, but do not yell.
Okay, I ask you to stop. I mean, Randy asked before. Can I just say something? There are a lot of problems. There are a lot of places we can make corrections, and we will try to sort those out. But a lot of and I think that the idea of the race committee doing anything other than addressing the ANC is the right way we should go. I do think that the thing that's lost here is that we are a small volunteer body.
Exactly.
And that what was happening, that it was not making decisions in darkness, except for our own personal lack of knowledge and wisdom around the decision about the small area plan. I was the one who lost that battle, and I worked hard to put together a resolution, but it took so much work, I wasn't able to get the whole thing out, and it was losing ground. And so Randy wrote a resolution that could pass. Now, it was not well publicized, but that's a fact of life. We are volunteers in a little organization. And one of the problems with the conversation so far is that you would think, we simply can't hold ourselves to that many rules. We've done the best we could in that period. And we should learn some lessons from that. You should, Mara, but we assuredly should. But the notion that we are going to revisit every aspect of that unbelievably overheated period makes no sense at all. It just makes no sense. And I hope that we can just take this discussion and say, okay, we hear you, Mara. We hear some of these mistakes. You should hear us. These standing committees cannot go off the reservation. They're advisory to us. And then leave it at that, because otherwise we're going to be here all night and we are going to end up with altars, every one of us.
Any other commissioner has a comment? Completely agree, Peter.
Completely agreed.
John? Connie?
Yes, I have something. I'm trying to figure out, Maura, in terms of what was presented to the council and whether that was your personal view or whether that was ANC material that was presented not in conformity with our procedures. I get the impression that you had some views. They were not either adopted or expressed in any way by the ANC. And since they did not, you took the opportunity to express what you think are your personal views about this issue, and therefore you weren't violating any procedural regulations of the ANC.
There was no violation of any ANC rule or race committee rule or anything of the sort. So and I'd be happy to circulate my testimony around, because this is a crucial issue, because Lisa and Randy have said that, like, I submitted the race committee recommendations to the council as if those were adopted by the ANC. It's 100% the opposite of what happened here. And so my testimony was my personal testimony to the council, and it's actually quite substantial. It's many pages. This is just one section of that testimony where I'm talking about the failures of process that occurred during that meeting, the lack of transparency, what I talked about earlier, and I included, by way of example, the refusal to discuss or even address or even circulate, and again, compare it to today's discussion, these recommendations. And so my point was that the ANC explicitly did not adopt these recommendations. So there was nothing about it. It was the complete opposite of actually what Randy and Lisa have written the DC Council. And maybe they hadn't bothered to read the testimony. Maybe they just saw that these things existed. But they're actually contextualized. It's part of a packet. It's an attachment among other attachments addressing the failure of process and, crucially, actually advocating for affordable housing and social housing that should be built in Chevy Chase. And with the adoption of the SAP, it's just going to destroy those opportunities here.
Connie?
Well, I have a few questions and comments. I'd like to take this particular incident as a learning thing for all of us, number one. Okay, so just get clear on process. Number one is, I remember when the recommendations came, and I was not supportive of the raise recommendation. And this is why I was asking tonight about the call boxes, meaning if the committee, our own committee, comes to us with a recommendation, and we've talked about disposing of it, I think what we're saying is we need to have time to react to it, and we have to have time to say why we both either support fully or support partially or not support at all. I did not have any time to read that. I also don't know who met and whether or not this was a full committee meeting. I asked those questions because they came out of nowhere. And so I was not supportive. I'm just coming right out to say that. I'm not supportive of the conclusions. I think the premises are wrong, and I wasn't supportive of the conclusions. And if we had more time, I think we could have discussed that. And then we could have, as a deliberative body, talked about that and had maybe a written response to the committee. What I object to is not, and I want to say something to exactly what you said, Maura. I have no problem with you or anyone else in our nice little community rather, objecting or being unhappy with what we do. Everyone has their own opinion. I have received many of these over the course of my 1.5 years where I haven't even stated an opinion yet. You don't even know what I'm going to say, and I've been criticized already. I mean, this happens. It's okay. I mean, we're big people.
Right.
We took this job, and we know what this job is about. I have no problem with you with a personal testimony talking about how you're unhappy with the process or you're unhappy with what the ANC ourselves done. That's your prerogative. It's free speech. I do have a problem, okay, with something that is not made public because you are an advisory body to us, meaning the committee is an advisory body to us, to then use that when it's not public yet, okay, to use it in your own personal testimony. I find that objectionable, okay? And so I have to understand why I find that objectionable. I'm not objecting to you not being happy with us. I'm objecting to how it's used because I want to think forward. How do these standing committees operate? That's really where I'm coming from, okay?
But it is public. So this is a fundamental misunderstanding. Under the District of Columbia Freedom of Information Act, and the very fact that these meetings themselves are public and open to the public, there's nothing here that's not public. This is a public record. If somebody wanted to FOIA the record, they would have the record. It wasn't, and to say that it hadn't been made public, it had been circulated to the ANC. I mean, this is public. This is not like the communications of the ANC. They're not secret communications. And the fact that Connie, you or anyone on this committee, I can't imagine, I actually don't think, or I'd like not to think, that ANC commissioners are trying to operate in the cloak of darkness. Sunshine is good for us.
Mara,
and we need sunshine on activities. So to be angry or upset at making public the deliberations and discussions of a committee, I think it's fundamentally dangerous to democracy. We need sunshine. We need to make things public.
Maura, let her respond to that, please.
Let me just say something again, okay? Don't cast aspersions on what I've said. You don't have to call and name things I haven't said, okay? I am merely pointing this out. And what I was going to say was, I absolutely agree that there should be transparency. I'm not in disagreement with that, okay? I think that our public meetings should be announced. It should be on our website. People should know where it is. I'm not in disagreement with any of that. I'm saying this particular incident, I remember it coming forward to us. I was not for those recommendations, okay, number one. And I think we need a process for formally making a response, okay, to how we go forward. That's where I'm coming from right now, okay? And I think as a committee member, if the committee comes up with a recommendation, I want to know, was there a quorum? Was this full? These are things I'd like to know. I mean, I would say going back with the call boxes, I'd like to know how many people were there? Was this a quorum? Is this a committee a decision? Okay, was there a vote? Those are the things that matter to me because there are very strong people, just like we have strong personalities here. I'd like to know who sits here and whose opinion is this? Is it a personal opinion or is it a commission opinion, right? Have we voted on it? These things are important. So I'd like for us to go in this direction to understand how to move forward and that we know when you become a member of a standing committee, what are those rules of behavior? And similarly, what should we be doing so that there's clarity? I think that's the key here for me.
I'll go next then, Randy. So just to piggyback off of what Connie said, I 100% agree. And as you noted, Maura, the difference in the conversation regarding the current race recommendations that we talked about today versus the process that happened before. That's why I made such an effort to make sure that we try to get these recommendations acted on upon the ANC, which we're required to do, which we did not do on the Chevy Chase SAP recommendations that they're published. That's why Libby is here giving notes of the last two meetings. So you initially talked about some of those false premises and thoughts. This ANC is not trying to hide anything. We are doing the best we can with what we can, and we're going to do damn hard to make sure everything on race is fulfilled in terms of our commitment, in terms of transparency to the community. If you were at that last meeting, one of the things that I talked to and acknowledged with race is that we have to start making sure the public knows about the meeting. We have to get the meeting link up there. I talked to Libby today about posting the notes on the website. If we don't post the notes, I want the video up there on the website. So we are not trying to hide anything. This is a huge effort that the ANC has agreed to undertake with this committee. Every committee is a huge effort. Not every member participates. We only get members sometimes to show up when there's the hot topic that they want to discuss. Libby was the only one out of that whole committee that agreed to do the presentation tonight. So the committee members have to help us as well. We all have to be in this together. If we want to be transparent to the community and serve the community transparently, we need everybody working together. So there is no, going back to what Connie said, we are unbelievably criticized on this committee. We have no qualm with people taking opposition to what we said. It's going to happen. We can't make everybody happy. And I don't think that's a goal of ours. We do the best we can for our single member districts and representing them. And we know sometimes our decisions are going to be controversy. A lot of people don't agree with the resolution, but there's a lot of people that did agree with the resolution. So we take that as it goes. But I do think it's unfair to be characterized, especially a member of one of our standing committees, to characterize us in that aspect, which is just absolutely untrue. My purpose of bringing up partially this discussion tonight is, and if you remember, one of the things I talked about is I said mitigating factors. And I do believe there are things that the ANC has done that we could do better, that would have put those recommendations in a better light, that would have been more transparent. And if someone chose to submit them after we made them public with our comments attached, that it would have provided the full context of the ANC's thoughts around those recommendations. So that's one of the things that I think, we have to tackle, that it seems like every member of the ANC understands that we need to tackle, and that we're going to do. So I just want to throw those points in there, and hopefully the community will understand the full context of our actions and our sentiment in our heart. Randy?
Yeah, I think this has been a useful process tonight. I don't think we should drag it out any longer. I think we've gotten everybody's points of view. Mara, I agree with you that a lot of things we did could have been improved, should have been improved. There are constraints on the ANC because we have limited resources. We have limited time. We were under the gun to get testimony done. All of those things are complicating factors. And I wish we had the time and resources to be able to address all of the comments that were in the raised resolution and to provide our resolution further in advance. I really would have liked that, but it just didn't happen.
Things were incredible. I mean, we got the race recommendation that night.
Yeah,
talking about getting stuff and not distribute. I mean, we got their.
Well, that was actually based on the request from the ANC. They said if we got it to you, you told us, Randy, that if it got to you, by then it would be considered.
I think I have the floor. All of those things are facts, but I don't think that changes anything today. I think today we need to look at what we can improve going forward and not try to rehash all of these things that happened in the past. I just don't think that's going to be productive for any of us. So I would move that we move on and that we not spend any more time on this tonight. It's already 10 o'clock, almost 10 o'clock. I think we have exhausted ourselves on this. So I would say we should move on.
I agree. I just want to be clear in terms of process. This is only because you guys are making this happen. I mean, this was months ago. And then you wrote this letter to the council, which again is extraordinary and factually false about me. Didn't even CC me. Then you held this meeting with the race committee that there's no notification that like I was going to be discussed at this meeting where like I wasn't there. And that was like this last minute meeting. Then I get a letter, Randy, from you and Lisa saying, you want to talk to me. And I'm writing you saying, what do you want to talk about? And Lisa saying, well, I put something on the agenda. I asked you over and over what actually was on the agenda. Neither of you would tell me. I mean, this is what's going on. I agree. This is a huge waste of time.
This is a waste of time.
You guys are making this happen.
Let's not do it any further. Okay, let's end this right now.
So I'll move that we end this discussion, but that the ANC review the procedures for committee members disseminating information, and the ANC also review and come up with clear policy and procedure on how our recommendations are attached to race recommendations so that they are clear.
I have a few more things actually. So thank you. I think
we should move on.
Okay.
We should move on, Connie.
Okay, that's fine. I was just going to add on to a few things that we can do.
I would call the vote.
You can call the vote.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
I call the vote.
Call the vote.
But this is to move on, but to review these things, right?
Yes.
Right.
All right, fine.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you, Maureen Libby.
Thank you.
Okay, business.
Well, I can't wait to take notes on that. That's going to be a kicker.
Peter, keep it simple.
Well, we have the video recording. You know, you want to just summarize.
Exactly. The tape is there.
So the first, are we on business?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right. Minutes.
Yeah. So I've taken edits from Lisa, Connie, and Randy. I move that we approve the July 25th minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Favor.
John, yeah. Okay. I'm done.
Okay. John, check payments.
One check to Randy for $222.58 for Zoom.
Is that the only one we got?
Yep.
Okay.
One more thing, Connie,
Yes.
I'm going to check out that GoDaddy invoice. Somehow I recollect that we paid that relatively recently, and I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Should be up for renewal again. So I have I spent 15 minutes waiting for GoDaddy to answer today, and they didn't. So I'll have to call them again. And we have a couple of passwords we have to put in just to talk to them. So I will try to run that down again. I don't want to do any renewals until we confirm that it's actually a renewal.
Yeah, and I really think. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
I will check that out.
Okay, and OANC really needs to give us guidance. We shouldn't be using personal credit cards to do anything.
Well, you know, we've reached.
I
think I mentioned this. I've talked to Dawn about communicating with Dawn about this, and they're trying to get this passed, but it's slow going. I think this is something that Mary Che and Janice Lewis George could help us out with the OANC, because I'm sure there are other ANCs which have the same problem.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, because it's not right, especially if we're reelected. Some of us are elected, not. We can't be beholden to that.
We're lucky that Stephanie's still in the country and we can call her.
Right.
But you know, that's not really.
I mean, to me, being reimbursed would be like what Michael and I did. Like we wanted like a banner or something, and so we did it maybe. But still, I think a credit card is what we need, and we have a treasurer, and we could get approval beforehand, and then we could use the.
They're working on a debit card situation, but whatever it is.
Too slow. Just
they need to do it fast. So I'll check out GoDaddy, and I'll send a note to Dawn and see what's going on.
Okay. John, let me. Can we approve this check to Randy, and then I want to ask you about something else. So You want to
I
go on
move-
and make that?
I move that we approve a Zoom reimbursement to Randy Speck for 222.58.
I
Second.
second. All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous, 5-0. John, when is our next quarterly report due? Because I know we're coming up on the end of financial reporting for this fiscal year. Are we on track?
We're on track.
Okay.
We didn't have that many transactions this quarter. Let's see, we have October, November, December. So end of September will be our next report. I mean, that's when the period ends.
Okay.
And we have to file, I think.
We
within
have
a month
45 after that.
One of the things I wanted to ask in terms of budget formulation for this year, when do we normally start to do that? And I want to see if the ANC is amenable to maybe a separate or more of a community-based process when we do that budget formulation. Some ANCs hold separate community meetings. And I know maybe some of those communities have a little bit more needs than we maybe here in terms of social services. But I think that might be a nice thing to do. We have like a couple nonprofits that are operating. Maybe we could, discuss what their upcoming needs are, make our grants in advance. I would like to kind of see that if people are more amenable to making that more of a community-based process.
Well, we have to come up with a budget after October 1st. I think we've got 60 days or 45 days or something like that to come up with a budget. And in the past, that has always been proposed by the treasurer, and then the commission considers it at a meeting and votes on it. If we're going to do anything with regard to grants, our grant procedures require that there first be an application, and presentation at ANC meeting, a vote at the next meeting after that. Our procedures are very clear about grants. And so, and they are driven by applications. So we could certainly beef up that process, however, and encourage people to make applications. But that, either we'd have to modify our grant procedures, or we would need to, within the grant procedures, encourage people to apply.
Why would we need to modify grant procedures?
Only if we wanted to do something on a more proactive basis where we were giving grants without an application.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about community engagement.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe reach out and hold a separate, maybe it's just a session where we talk, to some of the nonprofits, let them know that we have grant opportunities, how they can apply for grant opportunities. I got a question from Chevy Chase DC today on their grant application, and Feed the Pantry had questions on theirs. So I'm just thinking of more of a community engagement event to actually interact with some of these organizations.
Sure, that would be fine. We've never been quite so flush with cash as we are now.
I know.
Yeah. As soon as it piles up, everybody starts to grab hold of it.
Yeah.
When we have no office manager, we don't have any.
I know, it's tough. Connie?
So since you brought up the quarterly financial, I know that we have our annual report, and what my understanding from last year is it's due like November.
No,
right?
it's December 1st.
December, okay, fine, December 1st. So that needs to get done. That's a lot. Randy, you did that draft. And
yeah, I could do it again. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
I could do it.
Okay, all right. I'm just worried.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up. Okay.
Okay, I thought I'd just bring it out because we're in September already. So I'm thinking about, okay.
The fiscal year closes on September 30th. In October and November, I'll do it.
Okay,
I have a system.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So possible items for our next meeting, October 24th. Report on and discussion of Connecticut Avenue reversible lanes. Is that still?
I think we'll have more information because really everyone was kind of on hiatus over the summer, and we're supposed to have a community advisory committee meeting tomorrow that's actually open to the public. And I think there's maybe, because it's packed, right? We don't meet very often. There's like 10 to 15 minutes at the end for, I guess, the public, if they wanted to ask questions, and they were always actually
What time
welcome.
what time is that?
This is,
Because we have a 1 o'clock.
I'll tell you in a second, please. Give me 1 second here while I look. That, we have a 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah, okay, but not when they're not going to
I
do
think oh, sorry, it's right here. DDOT is, that is Wednesday at 6 PM to 7:30. And you know what, I'm gonna just post it on our website, and I'll try to post it on the Facebook page. I'll try to do all of those things. And to let people know that it's a WebEx meeting and that they can join, and they're going to just give a project update, review the current consultant scope of work. They're going to talk about parking. There's supposed to be some task forces to deal with each, like section of Connecticut Avenue. It's all south of Legation. They're going to talk about traffic calming. And then they're going to give time for non-community advisory committee members to comment. And then they're going to talk about administration and adjournment. So I will post this agenda on the website. 6 to 7:30 is this meeting, and hopefully people will have time to join. If not, I don't know if it's going to be recorded. I can ask them what they do.
Add the ZDD to the thing for next time.
Okay.
Why incidentally are we missing the meeting in 2 weeks? What is it, Yom Kippur or something?
Yom Kippur, yeah.
Yeah, it's Yom Kippur. So yeah, we should have this reversible lane conversation, the ZDD one.
Anything else that we need to add to the agenda for next go around?
Do we want to talk about a special meeting to talk about the Civic Corps?
Well, we want to do that
I
before.
thought
We want to do that before the 24th, don't we?
Right, I thought we were trying to do that before the 24th.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Do we want to set a time for it now and start the process? Because we're going to have to get, well, maybe we can't set a time for it because we need to.
Yeah. I mean, you said you had to get the people first, so we'll build around them. So just don't do it next week. I got family obligations next week.
Not going to be that soon.
Yeah, we just need 7 days in advance. So
well, and more importantly, we need to get all the three primary players together. So you want to, Lisa, you want to reach out to them, or should I?
I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
Okay.
And I think we should put for the 24th Civic Corps. I mean, we could still have a discussion.
Just a report, at least a report.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
And how do we want to, I think we should, because Peter and I are going to look at the zoning design and development, standing committee, right? And we're going to model it after Ray's, because we went through all of that at the beginning of how we want that to operate. So how should Peter and I mean, I was talking to Peter today about we should put the charter, and we have to put these documents together, obviously, right? So people know what they're doing. And it's a small group, our little thing is I think max of 7 people. So how should we do that? Should we just, proactively kind of make some changes, but make sure it's redlined, and then we can discuss it at the October 24th? Maybe that's the best way to do it. Given everything that we've heard and said, and that I didn't say tonight, that I took little notes oh, these are things that we should be doing, let's say.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's do that. Then that's something that Peter and I can work on for October 24th.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Are we done?
Okay, we are, but Randy and I should stay on because I want to save Q&A and save things.
Not much in Q&A, I don't think.
No, but still, I gotta get this right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. In the
You can stop the recording.
We're done. We'll be wrapping up.